Hello there! Hey there! Welcome one and all! Welcome to a new stream. Hello. Let's get background music going. There we go. Hello. First thing before we get started, I want to double check that a thing is working, which it may or may not be. If my stream going live notification thing that should be automatic now is working, which it may or may not be. I'll give it a minute. It might take a minute or two to go. That's okay. Hello. So, to people who recognize the name, the Handyman with a Unicycle, how am I starting this? I don't know. Okay, so we're doing something that I thought I wouldn't be doing yet. I was gonna be further down the line, but I decided we're gonna do a little bit now. Not going completely headfirst into this, but starting to dip our toes in the water, so to speak. I guess. But first, before I get into that, yeah, it looks like might not have worked. Hold on, I'm just gonna. Okay, I'm gonna debug that later. That's fine. each new stream I can debug whether the automatic going live notification thing is actually working. Well, that's okay. Yesterday we were working on so I'm working on a video, a tutorial thing that I'm making. Ooh, little bits of it here and there. Actually I wasn't even working on it in this program yesterday. I was working on it over in this one. And we actually go over to, show off bits of this. So, I'm making a tutorial, presenting it in a kind of unique way where it's like being all rendered in a Unity scene with some interesting background stuff, and each clip of the video is coming onto screen through this like swinging monitor thing, and they come in from 4 different directions, blah, blah, blah. Some of the clips are me talking directly into the camera. There's going to be a lot that are still in progress of narration of me saying stuff with over top there being visuals of different kinds that I haven't recorded yet. That's the next thing that I'm going to be doing. But it's still just in progress. And not like some parts of making this video I've been streaming, some parts I haven't. That's just some things are more easily streamable. Like the next part of this being recording stuff that's kind of harder to do on stream. Also, we're gonna go down here. Also, yeah, I'm standing again because where I was before. The last couple days, my leg's been super sore because that's what happens when you run many kilometers. I did the Terry Fox run last weekend. Recovering a little bit from that, but I have I don't know, doing better. Recovering okay. Okay, so, how come I'm always, like, every time at the beginning of a stream, I'm always, like, flustered with what I'm saying? It takes me time to, like, get into the groove, especially because I'm rusty with streaming in general, I guess, because I was away from it for a while, and then kind of coming back to it only in the last couple weeks. But I'm trying now to stream consistently. Was super busy. I am still, to some degree, busy, but I'm trying to, like, balance that better now. Still trying to find time to stream where I can, because I want to be streaming consistently because it's a thing I enjoy doing and all that. And right now, with working on this video, I'm finding myself in this weird position of, so like when I get back to working on the Handyman with Unicycle properly, fully, it's like what I'm doing sort of full-time-ish. Be easier that like, oh, you ever stream or is like working on that or doing some side thing just to spice things up or whatever. Where with the working on this video, as I said, there's some parts of it that aren't so streamable, so I'm finding myself having to almost choose, like, do I want to, not stream today to just focus on the video stuff, or stream anyway and then find something else to stream while, even though the next thing I really want to be doing, the next thing I want to be doing content-wise is just getting this video done. And I've kind of chosen that to some degree doing both. Like, I was working on some stuff with this video earlier today, but, I still want to try to be streaming, and I am kind of choosing to some degree where I can, choosing streaming over working on parts of this that I kind of don't really want to stream. I mean, I could hypothetically try to, but for the recording of some footage, this could be hard with having two things of OBS open. I just don't think that would work super well. Who knows? Especially a lot of stuff with this video, this very first one of this, these 10 tutorials that I'm going to be making. This is very much more of like the kind of guinea pig one of just testing out an idea, and then we'll see how it goes. Then by the next one, hopefully have a more concrete template. Figure out what works and what doesn't with this first one, and then take that going forward. Anyway, so yeah. Before I started streaming, I had like a bunch of things I was gonna say, and they're all kind of gone out my ears. So the next thing I'm working on, like, as I've said, like, as I've repeated myself a bunch in previous streams, is working on this video stuff. But another thing that I've been working on a long time ago is a game that I just realized, I actually like looked at kind of the data, like how, so I have this like VOD channel. It's just an archive of my live streams and whatnot. The last one that I actually, like the last one where I was actually doing stuff with the Handyman with the Unicycle, just going off of stream titles, yeah, it was like over a year ago, which I don't know how it's been that long. Which is insane. Crazy. It does not feel like it's been that long, but somehow, yeah, I used to be working on it all the time. We were making a lot of cool progress with it, and then that kind of stopped because, yeah, I got just super busy. Oh yeah, back here I was doing streams with like just some random school stuff that I was working on. Oh yeah, this Python stuff, that was not fun. This is the dino thing that I did. That was cool. That turned out well. Anyways, but Handyman with Unicycle is a game that I started as a school project and then liked a lot, and then was like, yeah, I want to keep working on this. And it's evolved a lot since then with kind of what I want to do, idea-wise. Yeah, so that's that. But it's always been my intention to get back to working on it. I just had this, like, a bunch of stuff kind of in the way of, like, some things that I kind of wanted to do first as I'm sort of working my way into getting back to working on this game. But, like, some of those things have been just with doing streams and whatnot. The last couple streams that I've done a few streams where I've just done some random, like, oh, hey, in a Unity scene, let's, like, make a random just thing that I want to make, like a catapult and stuff like that, and lasers and whatnot. And I have thought that, like, a lot of this stuff will, well, one, we're just making it just like, oh, learn things and whatever, but some of this will be reused potentially in something like the Handyman with the Unicycle and this tag game that I was also working on that I also want to get back to, and that'll be another stream, another mini streams at some point. But I was already doing these streams kind of, making this stuff as kind of filler while I'm making this video and doing stuff with it. So I kind of figured that, like, if I'm just, so I'm working on this and doing stuff with, like, this is the thing that I mainly wanted to be focusing on, but I also want to be streaming. And the next stage of what I'm doing with this video isn't really streamable, so I'm sort of finding, like, other, as I'm kind of saying, like, filler streams almost, like, doing this. So I thought, like, why not, like, what the heck, why not, just actually get back to maybe possibly working on, the Handyman with the Unicycle, because it'd be cool to have it actually be making progress again. And as far as, like, the streams being interesting and whatnot, I think, like, one thing that will make my streams more interesting is just actually making bigger, grander, cooler stuff that's actually, you know, coming along really well and whatnot. So making a lot more progress on this game and streaming stuff with this game more consistently, yeah, would be cool. Now, I don't still, it's like, I'm gonna today potentially be working on it. Working on it is very, very loose, because, like, the first stage of this is having to just do a lot of remembering what the heck I was even doing with this game, which I have a rough idea, but figuring out more like on, like, the code side of things, of how some things are specifically set up and whatnot. There's more scenes than just this one. There's even, like, before we start, like, maybe making new stuff, I know that there's some, like, bugs and whatnot, and just some conceptual things that, since I last worked on this game till now, some conceptual things that I want to potentially change. Oh yeah, this was a fun thing. This is a whole separate thing that to potentially look into. I had a sort of, like, custom skybox setup thing with this project, but even that, I still, like, this was just all temporary stuff. I don't really like how it was just put in a random skybox that I found with, like, clouds and whatever. It's like, yeah, sure. Wasn't super happy with it, but it worked as a temporary thing. I upgraded this project to the most recent version of Unity recently, and all the Skybox stuff just completely broke for some reason. So like, yeah, that's fun. So it's just a whole separate thing to get working at some point. I mean, the Skybox wasn't super important, so I can for now just like put it back to like the default Unity Skybox is working perfectly fine. You may notice that this scene is black and white except for these lines. What all this means is a whole separate thing we'll look at. I remember yeah, what a lot of this is and stuff that we'll get back to that I'll explain at some point. But yeah, so I had more stuff I was gonna say. So yeah, for today we're gonna potentially be looking into a bit of stuff with this. There's another game that I was working on, Ultra Tag. I want to potentially have some streams, maybe going back and forth between some stuff with that and stuff with that game. One thing I know I want to do in that game pretty early on is I made that game in the HD render pipeline of Unity. Has the whole three render pipeline things. There's the built-in render pipeline, the universal render pipeline that this is made in, and the HD render pipeline, which is like trading performance for graphics, kind of. Because reasons, I want to change that game over from being in the HD render pipeline to being in the universal render pipeline. So making that conversion, I'm sure there'll be lots of bumps in the road with that. But that is just, yeah, a thing that I want to do that we'll potentially be doing at some point. Before I then get to, figure out more of what I'm doing with that game specifically and whatnot. Oh, one of the shirt buttons came undone. Okay, so yeah, that's so yeah, potentially be looking into. So yeah, in the near future, we'll be potentially looking into more stuff with this, while I'm on the sidelines finishing stuff with this. As I come up with more ideas of like, oh, hey, let's have a random stream where I just, make some random thing in isolation out here. That'd be cool. Even while I'm working on the Unicycle game here, I might potentially, depending on the specific thing, might potentially, like, over here, build a thing in isolation. Once it's working, then, like, copy code and stuff over to this. I don't know. Like, that'll very much be on a thing-by-thing basis and how much, like, I can do that, because there's to some degree where it's like, if I'm coding an obstacle, part of that will be coding, like, how it actually responds with the player and whatnot. Which, that's a whole thing that is going to be a thing with this game, is that I want to do a lot more, like, changes with how the actual player works. Even this test level, like, this is, all these lines and stuff were used to kind of communicate ideas. This is the beginning of, like, our first, like, a bit of a test level. But I'm going into this knowing that already I know there's some stuff that's kind of a little bit flawed with this level, that, like, the next one will do stuff a bit differently and maybe better. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know to what degree we'll kind of start immediately making sort of this level as is, and then address that other stuff later, or if I might change some other things with sort of the grand design of the game, and then immediately take this and try to kind of basically have to redesign most of this test level. I mean, it would suck to throw away most of this, but I don't know, we'll see how, like, necessary that is. Or that might not be thrown away, more maybe just, like, moved around and tweaked or whatever, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, another thing I was gonna ramble about is just that. So, funny thing between last stream and this stream is, next thing that I was, so a thing I was doing with this video thing last stream was, getting all these clips together, cutting off, like, the beginning and ends of different parts of the video, or, like, of the different clips and whatnot, and just to make it clear that, like, because some of these clips don't have, like, are gonna have other footage on top of them, I just put this random, like, temporary loading bar thing that I found online, just as a temporary thing, because otherwise it just had, like, the me talking into the camera, because I just recorded it in OBS, but the intention was to just take the audio of them. Just to make it clear that, like, yeah, these are clips that'll actually be showing my face, and these are clips I'm just taking the audio from, where video stuff will be added later. And then we have these two animations. These are completely done. Unless I decide that I might need to add, like, a frame or two of padding on either side. We'll see. We'll see. That's just depending on how they flow into the other clips and whatnot. Oh, X-Men Lips! Hello! Hello, man! Hello! Welcome! Welcome! Cyberchrome. That's Cyberchrome, with an A. Skyber. So, funny thing, Cyberchrome, is in a way something that led to my name being Cyberchroma in the first place. The discovery of Cyberchroma was, so in high school, throughout like high school, as I was doing random game projects, I was trying to like have some name that like I was, you know, as you do, is like, yeah, the name you're like selling the game under or whatever. And I went through a potential thing, but I was trying to find something that didn't already exist. I came up with some potential ideas of like game names, whatever, that a lot of them like already existed or whatever. So purposely going the route of like nonsensical stuff worked for finding things that like, you know, aren't likely to exist. I just finished my first index buffer basics. Oh, interesting. Yeah, the graphical stuff you're making. Yeah. And I made some functions to add basic shapes to my buffer. Ooh, neato. Cool. Yeah, developing the graphical stuff. Very exciting. I lost my own train of thought. What was this? Coming with a name, going between a bunch of different names, whatever. Then one day I was looking at, like, I don't remember what website. There's a website that you can look at, like, if certain domains are taken or not, and that's putting in different things, and then seeing, like, suggestions, like, oh, this is taken, but this isn't. I don't remember how I got to it, but I remember seeing that cyberchrome, I don't know, .com or .ca was taken, and then I changed the E to an A, the chroma. I was like, oh, it's not taken. Like, oh, cyberchroma, I like that, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of snowballed into, I guess, yeah, that being my name, I guess. Also, just years and years of being the most indecisive person alive and struggling to come up with a proper, like, name and, like, logo, color scheme and all that, and, like, my standards dropping further and further. But no, anyway. The rectangles are here now. Woo, more than just triangles, actually having, yeah, rectangles now. Very cool, exciting. They just need textures now. Yeah, going from solid colors to actually, yeah, having textures and whatnot. Very cool. With have you actually like implemented like drawing triangles and rectangles and then UV maps like in the way that like how most I don't know the right words to use here, graphical program things would use? I just mean that, like, so I've seen the inner workings of a .obj file, and they have specific, like, you know, like a .obj file has specific stuff for how it sets up the vertices, the indices, and all that. And then programs can then import obj files. So if I just take this cube and like, if I go export obj, I'm using obj as an example because it's like the easiest. I'm just gonna put it, yeah, on my basic desktop. Blah blah blah. It's a lot easier to read. No, just open with, can I open you with, like, Notepad? I believe I can. Let me do this. Yeah. This kind of file thing. Right now I just have a vertex buffer and an index buffer. Yeah. But yeah, this is like, you have vertex, like, these are vertex pair, or vertex, like, I at some point knew the terminology of these things. I've lost it all now. This is stuff with vertex normals, I think. These are stuff with UV coordinates, I want to say. And I don't know what this S is. And then I guess this is stuff with... Oh, right. So you define, like, you define where vertices are. Have this sort of vertice list. Whatever. And then you have, like, to make up the faces, you're going between this one, this, and this. Yeah, that'd be a thing. Yeah. I noticed it also generated a .mlt file. Material? I don't know, maybe that's what that is standing for. Whoops. Oh, what? I clicked the wrong button. No, I don't need you in Photoshop. Nope. I'm just curious now to see what the inner workings of a .mlt file look like, and if there's anything I recognize. Oh boy. I see like blendery stuff at the top. I assume, like, I recognize 250 as like perhaps a color value from like 0 to 255, but that seems quite high for that. This doesn't seem like it's a light gray, but it's not that white. Also, I did not want Photoshop open. No, thank you. No, thank you. Blah, blah. K-A-E-S and E, A, D, S, and E. I have no. Oh wait, maybe like emission, something to do with specular. A being alpha, maybe, and like D, I don't even know. Somehow that, through some amount of synonyms, maybe it ends up coming back down to like metallic or roughness or whatever. I don't know. Making pure just guesses. Yeah, they'll look up to make the face what Direct 3D calls index buffer. Yeah, that's okay. That is called yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, when you said index buffer first, I think I had a different idea of what you meant. Now I more so understand. Yes. So I don't need to store the same vertex twice if they share one. Yeah, that's the point of that. You just store the vertices, and then the faces are just, hey, going from that one to that one to that one. Yeah, cool. At the moment, my library is also only 2D, so I can't import OBJ yet, but maybe with more experience, they'll start supporting OBJ. Maybe, yeah. I was just curious if you had done it like, done it, I guess, an index buffer in the same kind of way that how these end up doing stuff with. But yeah, very, very cool. I guess, though, yeah, these assume, well, 3 dimensions and stuff, so you'd be doing, like, that more 2-dimensional version of this. Yeah. I don't have a Z coordinate either. Yeah. Fair enough. But some of the principles, I imagine, still apply to 2D. Just slightly less information to save and process. But the same concept with a 3rd dimension. Yeah, fair enough. Gotta start somewhere. Yeah, makes sense. But did you start in 1 dimensions? No. But yeah, no, very cool to be, making stuff from scratch like that. I know often with my game dev stuff in Unity, I'm very inclined to, be making everything from scratch. And like, I can't be using, like, stuff from the asset store. No, gotta do everything myself from scratch. Wait, yeah. Like, I'm using a rigid body? How could I? I've obviously got to code my own physics and collision system from scratch. But no, I'm not that insane. Anyways, but yeah, so what I was saying, for the thing that I was doing here, just to recap stuff that, build my own hardware from scratch, then the operating system, then the compiler. Yes. If you didn't mine the gold and silicon for your motherboards and CPUs and all that, then what are you doing? No. You can't have a fan. You gotta cool down your computer by blowing on it. That's not at all. You have to be powering the computer with, like, you have to be on an electric bike 24/7 powering the computer. No. Anyways, what was, okay, so I've lost my train of thought 10 times over. That made me do exercise. Not to brag, but no. My legs have been sore for the last couple of days. Normally, like, my legs haven't been sore from working out in like a long time. But just that I did the Terry Fox run last weekend, and yeah, that went well. Did the thing. My sore as well. Yeah, it happens. I was gonna say. No, I keep going to say things and then, but everything out of shape. I had, like, one thing I did. It's like my desk. I got a standing one. So like I have a remote job where I am working at my computer all day, every day, basically. And then also I do the streaming and the programming and all that. So I try to, do a little bit here and there to be slightly more active, I guess, like by having a standing desk I use sometimes, but not all the time. Like we're gonna go right back down to, yeah. But no, I'm not the most active person either. It's all good. Yeah. But circling back to what I was saying with, but if I look in shape, but I am out of shape, what am I then? I am and out of shape. Hey, a circle is a shape. Not yeah. If a stick is not a shape, so take that. No, I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. Anyways, okay. So, thing that I was trying to say with I have a lot of projects open that I don't necessarily need open, but whatever. So before when we were working on it yesterday, I was making this in Adobe Premiere. I was gonna. So, previous video projects that I've made in the past, I made with Adobe Premiere. That was my video editing software of choice. Way before that, I was using Movavi Video Suite or whatever. I don't remember exactly when I made the transition. It was around the time I made my submarine video, I think, but it may have been before that. But Adobe Premiere is what a lot of the professionals use, but also a lot of people still don't like Premiere, and like, there's other better video editing software out there, I believe. I just haven't gotten around to playing around with them. Like, I hear, is it DaVinci Resolve, I think I hear is good, and may experiment with that at some point, but not right now. So I normally, for the last little bit, been making videos in Adobe Premiere, and then for this video, because it's not a standard video, instead of being one big video, it's a whole bunch of individual, it's 18 different clips that I have to make, and then dump in a Unity scene, and then doing stuff with that. I thought that the process of making 18 different projects and like whatever, I thought in Premiere it would be a lot more of a pain, because in my experience I thought that when you render stuff in Premiere, it tends to take a lot longer. And I thought I remember that in Movavi, rendering stuff was like a lot faster. It's like, okay, maybe I'll try breaking out Movavi again for this one, because like the clips themselves don't need that complicated of editing. It's basically just cut a little bit at the beginning, cut a little bit at the end. I still gotta record stuff for some of these clips and put them on top, but I don't expect the editing of them to be too crazy or over the top. So I thought I'd do Movavi, and that's what we were doing some stuff with in yesterday's stream. But then it was still being a little bit clunky. But blah, blah, blah. Between last stream and this stream, I did Googling and discovered that Premiere has a very handy thing where you can have... I knew that sequences were a thing. I've used that stuff before in some of my editing. What I didn't know is that you can have all these different sequences set up of the different clips. And then basically shift select all of them, right click, export, and then have it render each one as its own video and like do it all together and whatnot, super tedious. And yeah, that was great. So then like upon learning that, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I will use Premiere. And yeah, so I think in this case with what I'm doing, Premiere is the more correct choice over Movavi. Bonus thing I also discovered, I don't know why, I'm sure it's more my fault than the program, but I'm missing messages. I will catch up with messages in just a second, but I just want to compare something because I can. Let me just pause this. Audio quality of these. I think that for some reason, the same video file on like default settings in Movavi sounds worse than in Premiere. Let me double check. Turn you off. So like this is the very first clip at the very beginning. There are a lot of things that move in video games, and lots of those moving things need animation. So there's that, and then the equivalent clip, same clip, default everything. There are a lot of things that move in video games, and lots of those moving things need animation. I don't know how recognizable it is like through the stream or whatever, but in my opinion, this sounds ever so slightly better. So that's it. But then there's the extra layer on top of that. I might, do more audio editing, like as people do with like noise reduction and blah blah blah. But just off of like default stuff, yeah, that's just a thing I wasn't intending. That I was looking at the end of last stream. I was like looking at the clips from Movavi in Unity, like, oh, these sound slightly worse. And I was looking on YouTube of my own previous videos and like, oh no, did something just bad happen when I was recording the videos? Am I gonna have to re-record all of them and mess with mic settings? But no, seems like maybe I won't have to do that. So good. Let me catch up on messages. Eventually I want to try to learn about OBJ files so I can render the Pokemon maps in my software. Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool. Does OBJ have textures in it as well, or is that stored separately? So I'm not super familiar with. I don't think it stores the textures themselves. I think you'd have the textures like separately as like a .png or a .jpeg file. But the OBJ file will have the texture coordinates that you use to map the texture onto the object. My only experience doing stuff with that were in a while back when I was doing custom, for a school project. Actually, it was more of like a bonus school project-y kind of thing. Or it was like, by doing this, I didn't have to do some other thing. But it was... like I did DS programming is what I'm trying to say. I did like learning how to like program something in C or C++. I forget now which. It was C++, I think. and basically, you know, do stuff, whatever it turns it into, a file that could in theory run on a DS if you had all the physical like hardware stuff. But in our case, we ran it on a DS emulator, and we made 2 projects. One was just a simple like 2D, like, oh, it's a ship that moves up and down, and asteroids come at you and you dodge them, like simple thing, but just learning basics of stuff. And then the second thing wasn't really a game; it was just get 3D stuff to show up in like a viewport in being in a DS game. I think it was like on the top screen was that stuff. On the bottom screen was just some instructions of if you press buttons, then things happen. And at first we just had like a cube, but then I actually got like a while back I made a submarine. Actually, you can see it briefly here. Over 1 second. It's in this video. Bam. No, it's like super small. You're gonna reset on me. No. Over. Okay, it's right. It's right here, super tiny, but right there, this submarine model. We took that from Blender, exported it as an OBJ, and then put it in DS land. Except it could not handle the poly count, so I had to like make it so much small. Also, the submarine that I made is like made up of a couple different objects for the different parts of it. So I joined it all together as one object, and then baked like the textures onto it, made it so it's just one texture file as well. And then reduce the polygon count of it by like Blender has this like decimate modifier that just take this thing and make it have less vertices, but then the object itself looks a lot worse. But that worked for getting into DS land, and yeah, we were able to do that, and like yeah, that was cool. So that was in that case like there I did import an OBJ file in C++. And then also import a texture file and map it onto the object and all that. There was a lot of Googling involved. Like, I don't remember at all, like, how I did that. But, yeah. It's, yeah. Let me, start this. Yeah. My code is so readable that ChatGPT can understand, I guess, the ins and outs of every functioning class I have. Ha! This means I technically never forget what my code does. Yeah, why comment code when you can ChatGPT? I mean, earlier today I used ChatGPT to like ask a very specific question about how to, like a command line thing. Yeah. But CUV coordinates are pretty important too. Yes, that is how you're gonna get textures onto object. I don't know how familiar you are with that. I guess because I use Blender a decent amount, I haven't done that much with like making textures and like whatnot, but like I have like okay, there's not much I can like okay, new UV coordinates. Wow. You have object and you map the vertices to endless like 0, 0, 0, 1, 1 space. You'd have a texture, and then it's mapping the colors of the texture onto the object and like whatever. And then more actual technical terms for what it's doing that I don't know the proper terminology for, but whatever. Yeah. I realized that, like, I was looking like me in the webcam, it looks a lot like, it's like, why does my lighting seem a lot darker? It's entirely that there's a lot of my lighting that just comes from whatever's on screen, so that's funny. More of the reason to use light mode for everything, so I get better lighting on my face. But then after the OBJ, I guess I can try to understand the files Nintendo DS uses for the 3D maps. Right, so there are, that is one thing. There are different file types that 3D objects can have. A .obj file is just the simplest one. It's very common, I know, for Blender, when you export and import stuff in Blender, it's in .fbx file. But that's a lot more complicated, and I wouldn't know how you go about importing a .fbx file and how any of that works. I think it's some, like, similar concept. Well, I don't know. Well, I know an FBX file holds a lot more. An OBJ file is basically just the vertices and the faces and the UV coordinates and, like, that's it. FBX file, that's going to be, like, well, rather than just one single object, it's going to be, oh, here's a bunch of objects. Everything, like, that can be in a Blender project. Like, oh, here's all these different objects, a camera, a light, like a rigid body, not, that's the word I meant to say. I meant to say rig. Like a rig with, like, you know, an armature and, like, animations and, like, blah, 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 blah. So it's a lot more. And then as you can see here, I just have different options for what I may be exporting stuff as, so then all these have their own stuff going on. But I just know that a .obj file is the simplest one. Yeah, I feel like starting with OBJ is better for me, so I can focus on learning one thing at a time. That's also, yeah, the starting simple and then getting up there. In Pokemon White 2, the maximum amount of polygons it could handle was 2048, I believe, like on screen. Yeah, makes sense, fair enough. So they have to do a lot more with making sure that if something's not on screen, then like don't be drawing stuff off screen or whatever. And you're keeping the poly counts low and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I was only very briefly familiar, but not an expert. The one Pokemon White 2 uses NSBMD, and for textures, NSBTX. Fair enough. Quite frankly, I know. Yeah, I can't say I know a lot more either. I only know, like, briefly, just, yeah, stuff I did in the school project a little bit ago, and but have forgotten since, because it's not stuff I had to actually really do stuff with. Like, I don't have... I did that project on an old computer, so I don't think I even have the files of that project on this computer, and it would take too long to actually go and grab them. But yeah, that... like, I open up that file, I wouldn't know what is what. Yeah, no, nor would I. I don't even think you can... So with an OBJ file, I was able to, like... you know, I can see stuff that I can, like, reasonably look at and decipher what stuff is. Blender with an FBX file, different story. I think it's just going to come up as a bunch of gobbledygook because it gets all encrypted and whatever. So if I go FBX, just be there, and then if I go to open you, open with one sec, just opening it with Notepad. I believe, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's like good luck. I mean, I'm seeing some words. Although I don't know if this is just because of some encrypting stuff. There might be, I'm not super caught up with this, but there might be some about, like, you take this, run it through some code, and then it spits out something that's more English that then you can actually decipher, but I don't know. Also, again, because, well, with Blender and whatnot, with, like, there's more stuff that can be being exported with, actually, I forget exactly how much is included in FBX and how much isn't in regard to Blender things. Not every Blender thing will be in an FBX, but like anything that could go between Blender and Unity would be. But yeah, having like armatures and animations and all that. Shape keys, I think, also go along. Yeah, I believe modifiers don't, if I remember correctly. Usually, I just save Blender projects or Blender files directly to Unity and let it do its automatic conversion stuff at the back end. So, not stuff I deal with too much, but I made my own Pokemon maps before, although I used existing software, and that software only worked with OBJ and Nintendo official converter to convert from OBJ to NSBMD. So I guess I reverse engineered that. So unless I reverse engineered that, I suppose. Yeah, again, I'm not super familiar with all that, but best of luck to you with figuring that out. I do have IDA Pro. I don't even know what that is. Of course, I need to understand OBJ first before I even know what gets converted and what. IDA Pro is a disassembler. Ah, fair enough, fair enough. What does that, like, you know, disassembler all the way to the assembly code, or so you look at the assembly of the software. Haha, beat you to it. Yeah, but even like understanding assembly code can be very like, hard to decipher. I've had to do that with, like, in school for, like, very, very simple assembly code, not like an entire game's worth or whatever. Yeah, I understand the assembly for the CPU of the DS uses. Very cool, very cool. But yeah, it's not impossible, just not easy. Depends on your skill set and what you're already priorly familiar with. But I understand for my own CPU, so I'll need to learn a bit more. I guess, like, I think that, like, a DS CPU would be simpler than a computer CPU. I mean, there's more technical stuff that has to go into, like, making it small and light, I guess, but still, I think overall, because just because something's smaller doesn't mean that it's simpler, because it takes work to make something small and still run fast. So, but yeah, but it's still a DS. A DS is not a computer. 3DS probably, you know, is a lot more, and then you get to a Switch, like, that's a lot more. But yeah, or even phones in general, like that, they do a lot for being small. Yeah. Yes, for instructions. Yes, so learning the instruction set is faster. Fair enough. Yeah, definitely very cool to be, just be making cool stuff. And you know, here I am in my corner, also trying to make cool things, like this, video making that was very, a weird way that I'm going about it, but will hopefully turn out cool. It's like what I was saying that, yeah, I had a, as long as you don't ask me about the VRAM operations of the syscalls. Yeah, I only know the syscall for reading a file. Well, that's more than I know. Yeah. Well, again, like there's some stuff that I did do in school once upon a time for like class stuff, and just stuff I do not remember now. Like I did at one point have to convert very simple assembly code into very simple C code, and vice versa. And I've had to at separate points convert assembly code into hexadecimals, and vice versa. But yeah, with some, like there's some things I've had cheat sheets for, but some not. But yeah. Yeah, they because I saw one function in the game responsible for that. They had debug information that let me know what it was doing. Oh, whether debug information, I would not have guessed anything. That also probably helps things. Yeah. Any kind of assistance with what something actually does. Yeah, definitely seems helpful. Yeah. So, what else? So yeah, but basically the long and short what I was doing with this, I can close Movavi, is that I was before, as of yesterday, was doing stuff in Movavi. Now I'm not. I'm back to Premiere and was able to set this up so much faster and then just line things up faster and yada yada. So now I have just these 18, but the intro animation, the outro animation don't really count, so I can take those out. So 16 real like things to go through and edit, and some of them are done-ish because the ones that are just me talking directly into the camera, they don't need much editing. I've said before, I've considered the idea of whether I want to put like some kind of visual effect of like static or something, but I don't know. We'll see. Like that, I kind of, there's like, if I do something like that, that's more of an optional thing that maybe makes the video look better, but it's not 100% necessary. The next thing where I really want to focus on is that like I have temporary footage that like needs actual footage, so I want to focus more on like the things that will get the video to being technically complete, and then focus on more of the visual stuff like after that point. But because it'll also be easier to tell like, oh, do I want like this or this on these monitors, or how they move around when I have the actual clips to compare to rather than a temporary black screen that, yeah. Also even just like the timing of, you know, one clip going into the next or whatever. I've considered the idea that like, so even right now my background's pretty basic, potentially getting a green screen thing of some kind and then putting like, well, I think it'd be cool to have just me in the background of just basically this grid texture. That could look cool, but we'll see. Having stuff that actually like, you know, moves around or whatever would be cool, but yeah. We'll see. I'm missing messages, but also ID Pro has a feature that tries to convert the assembly to readable C code. That's also definitely seems helpful. Because, yeah, in my experience, assembly code, if it's super basic, can be hard to read. I mean, C code can also be hard to read, but potentially easier, I guess, depending on the thing. I mean, you could have, here's multiple lines of assembly code that is only a few lines in C code or stuff like that, especially when you involve like loops and stuff. Yeah, and like recursion and yeah, all that fun stuff. And you can then name variable names as then you can have missing where I lost my spot, and then you can then name variable names as you discover them, which is really useful. Yeah, cool. Like I read that and then it took me a couple seconds to process, like, because yeah, when you're disassembling code, you don't really get all the variable names, right? It's just like single letters and stuff like that, or like registry stuff. So then you can retroactively rename stuff as you discover, like, oh, I get it, this is a speed, so like call it that. Yeah, interesting. That, yeah, also makes sense that would be helpful. You also don't get comments. Comments don't get they don't get compiled. The whole point of comments is that they get left out, so then when you decompile stuff, the comments just aren't there to begin with. Yeah. Interesting. It's really useful for me. I only can only understand assembly if I have context. Fair enough. Yeah, like I can't understand what something does. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Code is hard. Code is, even like not assembly code, like my own code. Like when I'm with working on the Handyman with the Unicycle and whatnot, which it's been 46 minutes and we haven't done anything with this yet, but that's okay. I'm gonna have to do some degree of looking back at code that I wrote over a year ago and remember what things did. I have like rough overall ideas of how some stuff worked, and I tended to do a thing of having very, very descriptive variable names, which will be good in my case, because I don't tend to comment code that much. There's some comments. It's like, okay, yeah, look, there's some comments, I guess. Okay, so maybe it's not completely uncommented, but and it's just a random. This isn't even that important of a script. This is one that activates a level or something. Yeah, that yeah, so I'll have to be doing like, yeah. Or where was I going with that? That I can deciphering code can be hard. Basically, yeah. And like me looking at my own code, I can understand what stuff works. But there's been times with streams where someone's asked like, "Oh, hey, can you look at this code and try to help me solve a bug?" Which I'm happy to do. But reading other people's code, like any code that's not mine, like that I didn't physically write, like becomes immediately a lot harder to understand how stuff works. Or I imagine anybody watching any of this code has no idea what any of stuff is doing. I mean, there's like some rough helpful things of just like, you know, descriptive names or whatever. This is the code on the rides. Well, it would also helps to have the context of like actual game mechanics. Like in this, the Handyman with a Unicycle game, you are a handyman on a unicycle and you ride around fixing circus rides. So this is code that controls the fact that the rides will break from time to time, and they do so on kind of random timers. I think there's actually a ride. Well, no, this is the ride manager, and then they tell the individual rides, say, "Hey, you start braking and whatnot." Yeah, and then it handle stuff with that. And then I think I have stuff like when you win a level, it automatically fixes all the rides. When you lose a level, it automatically breaks them all. But then I also have to have certain terminology that a ride can be in the middle of breaking, like having a health bar going down, that it's in the middle of breaking, and then if it runs out, then the ride is completely broken, it is completely busted or whatever. So yeah, I have like that terminology to like keep in mind and stuff like that. When I was working on my tag game, Ultra Tag, because saying it and not it everywhere in the code is like more confusing, I started just changing the name and calling it like runners and chasers or whatever, just to help keep the naming more like, I don't know, consistent or something and less confusing. Especially because there could be multiple runners and multiple chasers, which doesn't as much conform to normal playing tag, how usually there's one person that's it and everyone else is not it, but whatever. It says the program is yawning a lot today. It says the program is linked with debug information, but I don't have access to it. Weird. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Not fun. Gives me the file path to the debug information they use with when they originally made the converter. I found the entry point though where it says main. Oh, yeah, cool. I guess that makes sense. Like you find a starting point, and then go from there. I guess. Sure. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, 'tis cool. Yeah. Yeah, code is hard. Code is very hard. Do you get, so when you're coding something for real, you have different files for all the different, things. Once that all gets like assembled and whatnot, well, I guess you'd still have code attached to different objects, but do you, to some degree, lose like the different files that things are a part of, or can you still decompile things into actually being different files, like a player and a enemy and a whatever? Do you Do you still get that, or do you lose that completely? Or is it like I get some, but or some I can't? I feel like it's a pain trying to figure out what things do, but at least it's for Windows. Oh yeah, if you were outside of Windows, like Linux or Mac OS, does that get like a lot harder? This is no files that I can see completely gone. Yikes. Yeah. Not fun. Oh no. Yeah. Sounds very tricky. Yeah. All I have is main. Just the one. Ooh. Yikes. Yeah. Well. Okay. So, yeah. I guess circling back around to what this stream was actually meant to be. So I was rambling about how I was doing these. Oh, I think I mentioned. I can do like, maybe not going through the whole thing, but just the fact that like, hey, here's how it's shaping up so far.
And lots of those moving things need animation. Hey there.
Still needs background music as well. Yeah. Also, monitor slightly off, like not directly facing the thing. That's a whole thing. I haven't. It's actually time. I want to time at some point how long all the clips are actually together. We'll do that at some point. Yep. Still, like, there's still stuff to be worked out. This isn't done yet, but yeah.
Let me first briefly show you the game itself, called No Time to Think. So here we have the game, and
wow, look at all these crazy visuals. Yeah, still work in progress, but it's coming along decently, I guess.
And you gotta get to a goal. So what we're gonna focus on here is how the player.
And yeah, 18 clips, and yeah, well, it'll be cooler once, you know, it actually has the visuals that are gonna be happening at some point.
There's actually only one animation being used here. So this is something I'm calling animation overriding. Basically the idea of having one animation and be able to reuse it in different contexts with the magic that is coding. Now, there are probably so many different places that you can use this kind of thing.
I don't think I need to run through the whole thing of this right now. I was just going to go through a few of them because, yeah. But yeah, this is like kind of the idea, the flipping back and forth. It's coming along good. But it will, like, there's so much more that I'm hoping to do to make it better. Like the monitors maybe slightly moving when they're on screen. And the main thing is getting the rest of the visuals in there. Getting in the background music. All right, you're mega quiet now. Yeah. Getting in... Yeah, I've rambled at this... Why is that so loud? Or that's just because You're gonna... Problem with my playlist of random video game music is different ones are like louder or quieter than others, but oh well, that's fine. Okay. So, where was I with anything that I was doing? Adjust that. No, I've lost my train of thought again. So, okay. So basically, though, yeah. So this is thing that I'm still working on and made more progress in Premiere now. Yada, yada. Next thing that I'm doing is recording footage of different kinds that I need for different things. That'll hopefully I'll be finding time for that kind of stuff between the next couple streams. So far I have a streak going. I've been streaming every day since... Was it Saturday or Sunday? I don't even remember. And I can look at my own... how far back? Well, these actually don't match the day they were up. Like, the day the stream happened versus these when they were uploaded. They don't match. So I don't know. Some, like, around there. But whatever, it's fine. Yeah. Actually, the streams are old and, like, are recent enough that I could look at the actual Twitch backend stuff. I really care about that, but I don't. It's fine. Yeah, so we'll see how long that goes. But it'd be, looking forward to, like, as I'm continuing to develop stuff and getting into more, cooler things. Like, eventually getting back to the Handyman Unicycle, which I'm still gonna have to figure out, like, how much, like, of the different, like, things that I'm kind of working out at the same time, how much I'll be jumping back and forth between things, because there's still on the agenda is giving more polish to this game. I actually need to do some stuff with this game to record footage of it for the video. Once I finish this video, there's the next couple I want to make. There's the little, like, animations that I want to make. There's improving stuff with the quality of the stream itself, and a bunch of stuff I want to do with that, such as the animation thing that's down there. I've ran about this bunch already, but like a whole bunch of stuff that I want to do with making that better, and like, but I'm kind of waiting on that until I think minimum finishing the next video, getting that done, because we're setting the timer of how long it's been since I've made another tutorials, because it's been too long, but yeah. But then also, yeah, doing some amount of work with the Handyman with a Unicycle. Okay, but so like the starting thing I have to even do with this if I were to continue working on it. Well, let me double check something. If I even go into, let's see here, over here, this, is this even gonna run or? Okay, so you have the weird, why? I don't actually know why. Yeah, you have the weird skybox. Something with the skybox is just broke. That's like fine and understandable. Also, this scene has stuff that's making it black and white that won't be in the actual thing. It's just the stuff when I was debugging things. Wow, look at this. Wow. Mechanics. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do needs to be done sooner than later. Yeah, I don't know why my skyboxes are completely broken, but we're just gonna not worry about it, and for now just put everything back to the default skybox, just so that everything is like kind of functional again. Does this not have lighting in it? Oh, you don't have any directional lights because you, yeah. Don't mind me real quick, just having to go through and where? Yeah, the first, I mean, the first like while of me working on stuff with this is going to just be me floundering around, remembering how I program different things, where I kind of left off, what I'm working on next, how I'm going to do whatever I'm doing next, and so on and so forth. Okay, you have stuff. I just want to, yeah, quickly just unbreak these scenes. If this is all just some gray background that I... Oh, you just have nothing? Weird. Default. Default skybox. I am still, what's the default skybox called? Just, okay, it's a dash. Okay, crazy. You, and then this one. Oh, I wanted to display the Nintendo DS maps in my software to make editing game data easier. I really want to learn how to make my own compiler for the Pokemon scripts. Yeah, okay, that sounds very cool. I've never made a compiler before. What is going on with this? This scene is using the default skybox, but a lot of it's all just black. I don't immediately know why. This is an old scene that's not being used anymore, but like I want to just have everything be working. I guess it's not the end of the world. The only thing I remember was I had to make it into tokens first. Oh, I do. Okay, actually, I do remember a little bit of that with, again, some things that I've done in school of, yeah, tokens. Where compiling it, like depiling up. Wasn't I just in this one? Or was that? It was this one. Okay. Default skybox. Okay. Yeah, the sort of like grammar of how you. Yeah, I remember. Very, very foggy on all of this, but the whole tokens thing that does ring a bell with stuff that I've had to do. Oh yeah, I remember this scene. Do I even still have the original? I think the original demo of this is another thing that's on my old computer and not on this one. I'll have to extract at some point. Where do I even have... Handyman Unicycle is saved here, here. Are you anywhere? No. Darn. I see the video file of the... Or the file of me recording the different voice lines for that demo, but not the demo itself. Yep, that's not on here. So that would take too long to get. But this scene that we made in only we planned and then actually made in a 24-hour period. That was crazy times. Yeah, will those do the floor? No, they're not. Yeah, a lot has changed since when I was last working on this for what this... I don't even think I can run this. I'm going to assume it's not going to... oh, I'm seeing null references. I know that I changed, like, the size of the player, yeah, no, this is... Or this isn't running the old character controller, I don't think. Yeah, I'm very small, I think. Or maybe I'm not. I think that, like, when I'm... Between making this and then making the real... oh, yeah, I'm being launched way more than normal. I think. Oh, and I'm not so sure. Maybe things are sized correctly. I thought that this was completely broken. I'm seeing null exceptions, but stuff is still kind of running. I've muted the volume here, but through this, there's, like, me narrating stuff. This was just for the sake of the school project. I just wanted to have a bit of a test level thing. It looks bad, but it was made in 24 hours, and yeah, it turned out well enough for what I wanted it to be. I wanted to basically to show off, like, hey, basically to show off the different things I programmed for the sake of the school project. I wanted to kind of have this, like, this tutorial thing where you're sort of going through them, being introduced to each thing one by one. For the so-called real game, I want to do a tutorial very differently, where it's not so much a tutorial, it's just kind of, like, very similar to just being an actual level. Oh, it's all the rides that are broken. Yeah, they're not doing anything. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, that's what some of the null references are coming from. I have no reason to fix any stuff with this because none of this is going to be used. This is all very, very old stuff that I've just decided to just go into play mode in just because. Yeah, this is the whole thing. Ooh, you get hurt and then you lose this thing. Yeah. Mechanics. Woo. He did make his own. There's already a program that has all these features I am listing, but it's buggy. Ooh, no. He did make his own compiler, but it's one. Looks like Java. One looks like Java, so massive flaw. Oh no. 2, where's my pointer arithmetic or typecasting? 3, error checking doesn't work as expected. Not good. Error checking doesn't work as expected always. 4 other minor issues. Yeah, that does not sound fantastic. Oh yeah, I won't be able to climb this, will I? Oh, not without everything just breaking. There's a bunch of stuff just with the character movement in general that I still want to. It's on the list to be kind of readdressed and figured out more. Yeah, what I want to do specifically, like just some changes between how it is now and how I would like it to be. Stuff that might be fixed. Oh, all the UI is gone. That's right. There's supposed to be UI on screen and none of it's showing up. Okay, that's additionally what's broken. But again, this is an old thing anyway, that doesn't really matter. What's the solution for, what's the solution for the camera sometimes clipping so you see outside of the map model? I see it sometimes happen in the game. Oh, in this game? So, okay, first, this scene doesn't matter, and I think this is running like old character stuff and like whatever. So I'm not super worried in this specific like scene. It's probably happening in a so-called real scene. There are definitely solutions for it because just by the fact that there are games that exist that don't have these issues. I think just the code that I have that sort of detects that the camera is like hitting something, and I have this sort of zoom in code running, just needs to happen first. So just needs to happen sooner. There needs to be more of like a buffer of like how it should be zooming in further, like faster, so that it never actually goes. It's supposed to. Yeah. See, it's supposed to zoom in before it goes beneath the ground. It's just not doing that. So that's just stuff to adjust. I think it's like casting a ray between the camera and the player, and if that hits something along the way, then that tells it, hey, there's something between us and the player, so zoom in. It should probably be like slightly behind the camera, maybe. But yeah, so there's definitely solutions to that. That's just, yeah. And how are the null references not crashing for me? Crashes instantly. It depends on what the errors are. There's some errors that can cause stuff to crash, and some errors that don't. Oh, also I don't remember how familiar you are with Unity. Yeah, there can be sometimes in Unity where you can have errors that don't make everything explode. It's possible. But yeah, not always. Sometimes with some errors, it won't even let you compile the code. Well, that's more the difference between there's compiler errors and then there's runtime errors. Compiler errors won't let you, like, if you miss a semicolon, you mistype a variable name or whatever, and it won't let you compile, so it won't let you run the thing. Runtime errors are, while I was in the middle of running the thing, I tried to access element 45 of a list, but it only has 3 elements in it, so you get a index out of range error. And then usually what will happen is, like, if this I need a better example of code, whatever, this level end spring, if this has an error, usually it kind of just quarantines the entire script. Like, the entire script kind of, like, turns off and it kind of stops running stuff there. Sort of. That's not 100% true, but it's, like, close enough. But it won't necessarily make everything completely break out of going out of play mode. Actually, well, there can be a difference between, like, there's some stuff that I think that won't crash, like, when you're running in the editor, but would crash if you were running, like, in a build, I think. But yeah, like, that's definitely not good. Yeah, like that. Like, in general, how can you solve it? So it's about making it so the camera cannot go beneath the ground. I'm not familiar with Unity. I just know in my C++ code, all null references crash at runtime. Yeah, it depends on, like, what you're working in. Yeah, like C++ code, yeah, an error will back out of everything. Yes, that is common. But in Unity specifically, with just how stuff is set up in Unity, an error won't necessarily make everything crash. I mean, no, you shouldn't. Like, ideally, you don't want errors to happen. But yeah, in this case, there was errors in that other scene because, like, that was an old scene of, like, with a lot of old code that, like, that scene, like, I'm not even doing anything with it anymore, so I could be deleting that scene. Currently it's just kept around for, like, hey, look at this thing that used to exist. And I just happened to go into it and running. Because I was curious, I assumed that I'd go into play mode in that scene and everything would break to the point where I wouldn't be able to, like, move around or whatever, but to my surprise, I was able to move. So with the whole camera thing, there's, I mean, from a game-by-game basis, there's, like, a bunch of different ways probably to go about those kinds of issues. I don't know what necessarily is the best way, just based on my knowledge of doing programming stuff and making 3D platformer type stuff before. I just have an idea of how I would maybe go about it, and the way that I happen to program it for how that, I mean, the way I've had to program with this isn't perfect. As you see, it is having some flaws and whatnot. Yeah, I'm no expert with with this kind of stuff. And even, like, so this particular game was something I made, like, over a year ago. Has it passed 2 years yet? So I don't know. Yes, hopefully I've gotten slightly better at coding since then. I don't know. When I do another go at some of this stuff, then yeah, it'll turn out better. I mean, it's decent. It's better than, like, oh. That should be doing the zoom in thing, I think. Okay, I mean, here's an edge case where, like, something should be happening, but it's not. Well, yeah. Oh well. We'll do it for this one. It will. Interesting. Like, if I care to, like, I'm sure I could debug and find out why that specifically is happening. I'm not going to do that right this second. How do you load the maps? Is it all in memory or not, or is it like Nintendo DS where it loads and unloads? So 50-50. Like, there's a degree to which, because I'm working in the game engine Unity, there's a lot of stuff with making games that, like, Unity does for you. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not having to do extremely manually to the 9th degree. One of those things is that, like, if I have a scene, like, I just go into the scene and then, oh, this is another one where the skybox is broken. Yeah, that's a mystery for another day, but I have just the temporary fix of just, if I can spell this guy, put that on there, and let me just, 1 second, I'll finish my thought in a second. I just want to finish fixing the skybox. You can manually load stuff. You just don't always, oh god, yeah. No, and this is supposed to be, like, 2 skyboxes, one where it's like a daytime scene, one where it's a nighttime scene. Yeah, I'll thing to figure out later. This is also why you sometimes don't trust. I believe this skybox is like one of the few things that I did from like just finding external like code from stuff I googled and like or was like from an asset store thing or something like that. And those, yeah, when Unity makes big changes between versions, and yeah, sometimes stuff breaks. Okay, with that fixed. It's all memory and it was like Nintendo DS where it loads and unloads. In White 2, it loads based on the distance to the map border. So, okay, so kind of. It's like, no, hold on. Hold on. The skybox thing isn't fixed because I have code that sets the skybox, sets stuff with the skybox on. Oh, where are you? Oh, I have to quickly find. I'll ramble in a second. I just, I have code that changes the skybox. If I just go in my code, just Google, whoops, the word skybox, I'm sure I'll find it. I changed the skybox at runtime. Hub manager, I believe, yeah. Oh, wait, no, this one didn't change. That was the problem. Okay, blah. You. And then you, and then, no. Maybe? Hold on. Okay, you're good enough. Whatever, it's fine. There's so much, like, stuff with this game to be explained. Because I am doing an amount of manual loading and deloading. You'll see, like, here's just, like, this stuff. There's not that other stuff. But the other stuff that's over here, I do load at runtime or whatever. So when you're, like, a beginner just using Unity for the first time and, like, whatever, you will just be like, I can find, this guy, this one? Yeah. Here's a scene. I made this scene, set up these objects, this code, and like whatever, and then all this is loaded at once. Everything, like all these objects, they're all here and loaded and like whatever. Now Unity, I think, does some stuff automatically that like if something's off camera, then there's less going on with how much it's rendering and whatnot. But I don't remember actually how much of that it does automatically. But then, so you might have your different levels in different scenes. Like here's level 1, another scene that's level 2, another scene that's level 3. And when you beat a level and go to the next, then when you go to the next scene, it'll load all the objects that are that level and then deload all the objects that are this level. So it does do it loading and unloading of that like automatically when you are going between these different scenes, which is like going between different levels. That's the sort of like basic way of like, okay, not everything's loaded at once, just like this collection of stuff is and this other collection of stuff isn't. When you're making a larger game and then you start to care a lot more about performance and whatnot, you will find like, you know, big, good, properly made games will do a lot more to squeeze every bit of performance out of a game, and will do that kind of dynamic loading and unloading where it's like some games, if you're that meticulous about it, like as you're going around a corner in corridors, it'll be deloading stuff behind you and loading in new stuff in front of you. In Unity, what you can do, and what I do use in this project, is having multiple scenes loaded at once. So as an example, I have this thing, this is a scene, a collection of objects, and over here, this is a scene, this is a collection of objects. Will this work? Yeah, I go into play mode here, and because of stuff that I have set up, I have the things down there that are loaded, and this thing up here is loaded, and it's like two collections of stuff that I can load and deload as I want. I can even, like, in a scene, I can instantiate individual game objects, like if I spawn an enemy or something, or destroy them if I destroy an enemy. Usually it's not great to be instantiating and destroying stuff all the time, because that can be a strain on performance. Usually it's better to, like, because there's a difference between destroying an object and, like, you can just basically sort of make the object invisible. Like, my player over... where's my player is... Where's the player? Player over here. Player, don't destroy. Yeah, I can, you know, effectively turn it off, and now the player's gone. Oh, the camera's gone, too, so it's not going to render anything. where was I going with this? But yeah, basically it's kind of on a game-by-game basis on how much effort the creator of the game is willing to put into that, managing all of that loading and deloading of stuff. Because I also, yeah, it can be a thing. You can set it up so meticulously to have, like, if something is not in, like, view of the camera, then it gets deloaded and, you know, reloaded, like, whatever. But there's a difference between an object being loaded and whether it's, like, loaded but just not rendered. And, like, that's stuff with something called occlusion culling. I'm probably pronouncing that a bit wrong. But, yeah. Some of the stuff that I'm saying might be slightly wrong in, you know, terminology and whatever. Again, I'm no expert. I just, you know, have been doing stuff with making a game, or attempting to anyway. And, yeah. But I don't know if that answers any question. But then even different game engines probably do stuff differently. Well, I think, like, Unreal and Godot still have, like, the concept of having different scenes that you go back and forth between. But they might have different names. I'm not actually sure. Maybe they do. But, yeah. Unity is the only game engine that I've used. Oh, yeah, there's error. Oh, the error is from when I turned off the camera because I'm not supposed to do that. Yeah. But yeah, in this game though, I do some more, like, one thing that I do with the loading and the unloading is, so sometimes when if you're going from one level to another, gosh, I'm not making a game engine, it's complex. Oh yeah, making a game engine from scratch, super complicated, super duper extremely complicated. Yeah, there's so many little things that that you gotta worry about. I'm tempted to make a game using a game engine, and it's very hard. Although, to be fair, like, there are before I finished, yeah, there's some stuff I'm trying to do just even with this game specifically that are, like, a bit more advanced stuff that you don't gotta worry about for like your first game or, like, whatever. I'm doing a thing where ignore it being black and white. Actually, let me go to the over here. No, not you. This one. This guy. Yes. There we go. Let me make you big. Is this gonna... In the past, I've had this maybe make the stream suffer. No, seems to be good. Okay. Keep an eye on it, though. Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me just... Right here. I meant to put you up, I think. Should be fine. In this game, so normally when you have a game where you're going between levels and stuff, you have loading screens and whatever. There are some games where you'll have a hub world, like an area you go to between the levels and whatnot. I'm having that, but I'm doing it crazier, where the idea that I'm trying to get working is that this is the hub world of the game. You know, imagine it looking a lot better graphically, like that's stuff to come eventually. Having it look a lot better, this is the hub world, this, like, on this collection of airships and whatnot, you select levels, and then they'll basically show up down there as this airship sort of flies to the different levels. And I'm hoping to have, like, so the loading of that happening. So if I go to this and it's like, wow, ignore that you can't even really see this screenshot. That's not important. Hit confirm. You can see, like, this thing is in motion. It's flying away. We're gonna be smoothing the actual, like, that transition process is, you know, very sudden. And then now new level down there, and then you get in the cannon, you press space, and then whoo, you get launched in, and then now you're doing stuff that the level is. I go back to the hub world. Yeah. Then, yeah. So, like, basically I'm having this idea of, like, you're in a hub world that physically moves between the different levels. So what I'm basically trying to do is have a game where you are going between a lot of levels, but having no loading screens, where that process of the thing, like, going from one to the other is kind of a loading screen, but the fact that you can still, like, control your character and being moving around and all that, I think is cool. It still needs a lot of graphical stuff. I'm hoping that that process of actually, like, going from one scene to the other, to mask it by, like, because you're flying through the air, have, like, a bunch of clouds kind of go around you so that, like, you can't really see that the skybox changes and all that. And just a lot to be smoothed out and whatnot, but it's like it's baby steps of, like, getting there. Yeah. Woo. And then you go into level, and then you go and you do stuff. This test scene actually has... Whoop, I died. No. Actually has more, like, debug... Has more testing stuff set up. That yellow thing over there won't take up that much of the screen in so-called real levels. Each level will have like one of these few different objectives. Ideally, a lot of the very beginning levels will just have one, but I have like 5 potential types of objectives that you could have, but like the real levels will have just like 1 or 2 of them. Just this test level has like all the 5 different types that I've made so far, just for the sake of testing them all. Basically, yeah, you go to rides and you fix them and blah, blah, blah. There's having to get to a goal of some kind. In some levels, there'll be just a get from point A to point B. There's, it gets hard to, okay, let me just skip with that one. This is like, you get an amount of the collectible, and that's that one. These are 2 different, like, there's 3 different, slight differences in, like, ways of how you can be having to fix rides and stuff. Mainly just affecting how, like, the health bar of the things work, and when some external stuff is triggering when they start breaking, but, yeah. But yeah, when you do all the objectives, then this thing will look all cool and shiny, and this is gonna be the actual, like, goal. It'll show up, and then you go on it, and woo, you beat the level. You continue, surprise, it's a giant spring, and it launches you all the way back to the hub world. This here was like an old test level where, it was kind of just a collection of us making different game mechanics and things that you interact with. We got tight ropes that you can actually even, like, fall off. I want to introduce a thing I want to do on those tight ropes is it having like in skateboarding games when you're grinding on a rail, how to have like a meter that you gotta keep balanced. I want to make one of those and have this just do that exact same thing. There's like boost pads that like launch you, and if they're, you know, angled, they could be a ramp. Hazards. We have it purposely being a thing in this game where hazards don't kill you. You don't have health. It's just like fighting against the clock with a lot of the stuff you're doing. With what you're trying to do in the levels is like racing against the clock, having to get to different rides and fix them before they break. So a lot of the obstacles are just for the sake of slowing you down. You can fall off and respawn. It has a fancy curtain transition. So we have power-ups because power-ups existed in the demo that I did with this school project. I'm still very undecided on if we will have hazards or if we will have power-ups being a thing in the full game, but we'll see. That's like, oh, I guess I used them already, but the 3 power-ups were like, one makes you faster, the other makes you invincible, the third one makes it so you repair rides like super fast. This was going to be a potential optional collectible thing in levels where somewhere in the level this balloon cart is hidden. Somewhere else in the level there's this golden helium tank thing. If you get the golden helium tank and you know, take it across the level, like from point A to point B. If you get hurt, you lose it and then have to pick it up again. So if you do that, you bring it to this balloon cart, then you repair it. And that's like a bonus thing that then for the rest of the level, power-ups would like have double the, no. I was gonna say double the, no, I think they last twice as long or something like that. This is also a thing that I'm undecided on, like, if that will, like, this was stuff from the demo from, like, when this was a school project that I just don't know if I want power-ups to be a thing. We'll see. Well, like, that stuff I'll or maybe I could, similar concept, but, like, in a different context. Like, recontextualize the same thing as a different idea, whatever. We have cannons. There was a cannon that brought you into the level, but, like, cannons can just be in a level, launch you to a different place. There's also the idea that, a cannon could, like, launch other objects, like, that cube, like, falls into the cannon and gets launched, so, like, that's a thing. We have hazards. Like, this is an electrical hazard thing, like, goes back and forth. It's cool. One thing that's cool with optimization, you see the actual, like, particles that are coming out of this thing. I have it set up that, like, the further you are away from a hazard, there's, like, less particles that are spawning. So you can kind of tell that, like, those ones in the distance are not spawning as many particles as, like, or really any particles at all, as, like, these ones that are up close. But that's just for a performance thing. I can, like, throttle it if I want to. But yeah, also this thing had, like, it's set up that can have different patterns pretty easily. So, like, that's cool and all. Yeah, with cannons, launching fireballs, and, like, that's cool. Over here we have, well, just the cannons can, like, launch at different rates. They, like, hit walls and get destroyed. Yeah, the thing launching the cannonballs can be, like, moving back and forth. Oh, Skilly, hello. Hey, teacher, I'm late because I took, like, a nap early today. School dry. Oh, whoops, you got sued. Right, I failed my, the test stuff. How'd I fail? never mind. I was about to say, like, it's impossible for me to fail this test level. Like, no, it's not. If I take a long time, yeah, school sucking. Unfortunate. Sucks to hear. Yeah. I did my time. I did my years. No, I graduated from university, a couple, yeah, like a year, oh god, like a year and a half ago, almost. Crazy that it's been that long. Jeezums. But yeah, best of luck to you. So I was just going over, to catch you up, like, this is a game that I was making over, it's the Handyman with the Unicycle. I'm just kind of recapping some stuff that we did in this game as I'm starting to work on it again. I was just going through the rest of this, like, kind of test level that we're starting to build, just of different, like, hazards and stuff they made. Like, yeah, some of these turned out cool, yeah. Fire and whatnot. Very cool. Moving platforms is this last one, just very simple, like, traditional thing that you see in moving platforms, or traditional things that you see in video games, in 3D platformers, especially in moving platformers, is wow, I'm saying all of the wrong words, but yeah, let me, yeah. Moving platforms. Anyways, they're a thing. Yeah, so this was a thing. After we made a lot of those, then we started to make this hub world thing, and a lot of what's holding this together with duct tape of how a lot of, like, this stuff actually works. There's this. This took so long to make, this transition, but it looks awesome. It's great. The idea that, each level's gonna have a hard mode that you unlock, and then, yeah, you, like, switch back and forth to it, and, like, yeah. It's cool. At the top of these levels, you see it's recording how many strikes you have. I might, like, recontextualize, like, what I name these, but, beating a level without getting any strikes, that's sort of a collectible thing that you're unlocking, and as you get enough of those, then that's how you unlock the hard modes of the levels, and then they have their own thing that's tracked with them. I haven't decided what happens, like, what's the 100% reward when you get all the things, but that's stuff I can figure out later. But hopefully it'll be cool and worth it. We had a group project, there'll at least be an achievement for it. Steam achievement, yeah. We had a group work today, and oh my gosh, we did bad, totally, almost lost it. Everyone's so anxious before. Yeah, that's definitely not fun. I've also had my fair share of doing group projects and presentations. Presentations, yeah, not be fun. Yeah, some people are more, like, better at improving than others. Or whatever, but yeah. That be school. Variety of lots of different things you gotta do. Yep. Where was I? Yeah, so this is still missing a lot of graphical stuff, but that'll come eventually. This is more just to conceptually convey ideas. I know that there's still some quirks and bugs with a lot of this, which is unfortunate, but yeah, slowly getting to it. Even there's the biggest thing that still needs to be kind of potentially changed is some stuff with the player itself. So also, first of all, this guy on here is just a model I whipped up in 10 seconds to just that there's a human here, rather than just some debug cubes. Eventually, we're going to be making an actual full human character that's actually, you know, animated with moving his feet on the pedals and stuff. That's going to be a lot further down the line. I'm focusing, there's some degree I want, like, hey, things to look decent, but yeah, it'll be further down the line when we care a lot more about the graphics of stuff. I did have this other scene over, where was it? Here? Wait, where are you? I had a scene that's specifically this one. Layer testing, yeah. This was a scene when we were doing more testing with some specifics of how the player works, where, like, how they handle, like, slopes and stuff and all that, and how they handle, like, this. Which, this still, there's, I know for a fact there's still some issues with it. Yeah. Oh, hey, you're back. Back to Handyman. Hello, Lath. Hello, and yes, I kind of am. Asterisk. Yeah, so it's been way too long since I have worked on this game, and I'm not, I'd say I'm not fully 100% getting back into it just yet. Today, I was more just kind of looking at the project, and I might do some small things, but, and I don't have a lot of time left. It's 11 o'clock. Yeah, probably just try to stop around midnight. But yeah, it's been way too long since I've even really touched this game, so I wanted to, like, do that. Because it's eventually my objective to get back to working on this all the time, being the main thing that I'm doing on this channel, and, you know, getting to be actually making a game. That'd be cool when it's finished. But I do still have other things that I'm working on before that I get to this game. That main thing right now being my next actual YouTube video that I'm making. However, the next stage of me making that video isn't very streamable, so I want to, but I still want to be streaming, so this seemed like if I'm out of stuff to do to stream while I'm, like, making these other, like, the videos and, like, whatever, then this is a good thing to fall back on, is just, yeah, be working on this game. It'll take some time to kind of get back into the groove of what specifically I was doing with this game and kind of our next steps and remembering how all the code works and whatever, but I'm starting to remember it and figure it out, and like then figuring, yeah, like the next steps of where we want to go with stuff. You remember how to do text boxes that change as the player plays the game? Ooh, interesting. Text boxes that change how? Like, oh dang, I don't have, darn, I don't have, back a game I was making a while back called the Handyman with a Unicycle. That no, I said complete. A game I was working on a while ago, an abstract adventure. That's the thing I meant to say. At one point with that, what am I trying to say? So I made some development logs as I was making that game. One of them was how I made text boxes and stuff. Let me see if I can just find it real quick. This and over here. You might hear a second of my video. Blah, it's on that. Over here. Blah, and blah. An abstract. Spell it right. Why are you not showing up? Oh, hold on a second. Oh, right, because it was just called abstract. In the video titles, it just said abstract at one point. Hold on, let me just find this real quick. I mean, I guess I'm scrolling through, trying to find these. It could be on this monitor. Where are you? Dialogue system and NPCs. Blah. Mainly just want to see just the very beginning of this. Oh, no. Leave. Blah. This is 3 years ago? Too long. Also, Sonic Unleashed City music? Oh, probably. Yeah, yeah, well, Windmill Isle Day. This is from the first, like, the tutorial level of the game. So technically it's level music, but, let me double check. It is, right? Yeah, Windmill Isle, yep. Anyway, so, do I show off the actual stuff in this that's working? So ignore stuff with it. This is a separate cool thing. But yeah, look at text box had moving letters and all that. Skipping ahead. I just wanted to show the examples of the things. I show, like, come on. That is, look out for falling boulders or whatever. I'm missing messages. Like tasks change and showing the results after a boss fight show. Ooh, interesting. Nerds being nerds, yeah, you know it. Interesting. So, I also, like, the Handyman with the Unicycle right now has this, also, so this is like, here's an area you actually can, like, interact with the character. Like, there's one where, like, it shows up just as you're going by an NPC. This, if I click it in a second, yeah, there's just random, like, placeholder dialogue. Like, ooh, look, it's like going through a bit of a dialogue tree. Wow. And then it being a conversation. Yeah. This is a whole other project that I might return to someday at some point. I have a whole video on why I stopped working on this game, and like, even though this looks like a conceivably simpler game, I just really struggled to make stuff beyond this. Even though it's like, oh, this is an interesting environment, whatever. Making any kind of like proper level past this was like the hardest thing ever. I'm not good at 2D. And even at one point I was making the game like a 2.5D game because of how much I struggled to make 2D graphics. So it was gonna be like 3D graphics game, but you just move left and right. But even that, because of more stuff with the actual gameplay itself, I very much struggled with, and blah blah blah. Yeah, but so one thing I was gonna say with Handyman with the Unicycle, if I go back to the demo scene over here, this guy, this at the top left, I have a whole objective system here where you have tasks that you have to do to beat the level, and I have a whole thing set up for that different levels can have different tasks and whatnot. For example, in a second when I press space, it'll do a thing that's gonna complete that objective, and you'll see it gets all checked off, and like that's cool. This one, it's a thing, blah blah blah. So it works as a bit of a to-do list of different things and whatnot. It does take up more screen space than real levels will, because there's like 5 different types of objectives at the moment that levels can have. Real levels will just have like one of these 5 that you're just doing that thing, or maybe eventually there'll be like 2. Maybe like really like late game levels will have a lot more, like maybe it'll have actually like all 5 or whatever, but the current plan is like most levels would be less than this. And then from the text themselves, I'll potentially word things in real levels that what the literal text says can just be less words, so it takes up less space. Once you complete all the objectives, you go on this, and then woo, you beat the level. Whole thing. But yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, making so text boxes. Yeah, so like I imagine to some degree you'd have some kind of like I guess here's the text that thing says before whatever that's going to change as the player plays the game. So like here's all the text in whatever text file or whatever you have it saved for situation A. Here's all the text for once something changes in situation B. And then you just need the logic to decide like which to use at different points in time. So depending on what's the thing that has to change, let's say it's, for my own making up examples, once you've beaten level 5, or if it's not really a level-based thing, you're like progressing through a world, and it's like once you've beaten the second boss or whatever, I imagine then once you've beaten that, then you like save that information. You have some kind of text file, or you basically save like, hey, I beat this boss, check off like this boolean in this code or whatever. And then when you have the thing that's going to show that text when you're interacting with whatever character, then it would just look at that to be like, oh, what dialogue should I show in order to know that? Look at this saved information that affects what the dialogue's going to be or whatever, and maybe go off that. Probably, like, I would, like, it would depend on the actual, like, specifics of what you're doing and what's the best way to go about that kind of thing. I don't know if anything I've said is helpful at all, but, I mean, effectively, if you have a big problem that you're trying to figure out how to do something, my best advice with trying to figure out how to do anything with programming is to take this big problem and break it down into smaller problems, and then try to solve those problems individually until they build up to that you solve the whole thing. So, like, I kind of did that a little bit just a second ago. So you want to change, you want text boxes that change depending on the player doing stuff. So first, that starts with just having the text boxes in general. I'm assuming text box based on that you're talking to an NPC. So, okay, the interaction code to just be able to talk to an NPC in the first place and then show whatever test dialogue. And then having, like, here's the text A and then here's text B, and then just the logic to, if you internally, like, press a button, or you internally are behind the scenes, like, manually changing stuff, it'll either show text A or it'll show text B. So then now you have the mechanisms to switch between text A and B, and then you just need the logic of how does the game know which text to show, which then in your case it's like, oh, the player did a thing. So then you need a way to track that the player did the thing. That's its own separate bubble, its own separate problem, is tracking that the player did stuff and storing that they did that in a good way that's easy to access wherever you'd end up be saving that. And then you just got to kind of combine those two worlds of like, okay, change the text from thing A to thing B based on that we track this information. Boom. More to it than that, like, easier said than done, but and again, I don't know how much what I've said actually applies to your situation. Maybe I've slightly interpreted stuff you said or like whatever, but yeah, that's there you go. I don't know, but yeah, but taking a big problem and breaking it into little problems helps. But I guess I was keeping in mind where it'll eventually lead, so you're not, like, I guess, going down a wrong path and then realize, like, oh no, it's this thing I did, it's not going to work because of XYZ. I don't know. Practice, I guess, gets you better at that. The font reminds me of Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, I could definitely see that. It is similar. We had, like, kind of wacky text. I'm not at the moment sure how much, like, this looks nice. I like how this looks. I don't know how much of this is representative of how the real final game will work. One thing I think that will affect the UI when we get to it is that I want... So the carnival itself, the Pay Us Carnival, Peter Avion's Universal... Peter Avion's Yesteryear Universally Shifting Carnival. That's the acronym. I wanted to have, like, an actual logo, and, like, I'm thinking the color scheme of being a circusy, like, could be a circusy red and white, but I want the circusy red and yellow, just because that's more what I want to go with. And then I want to have a logo that's just the CEO, the business guy who runs the carnival, his face just kind of like, whatever. Basically turning his face maybe like in a circle with some coloring or whatever. Basically make that the logo. And then I kind of want that plastered everywhere because he's so, like, full of himself. And then basically I want to sort of turn the branding of the carnival itself and, like, whatever, like... Yeah, the branding-y stuff, I want that to feed its way into the overall UI somehow. So as an example, hold on. When you fall and die, there's this curtain close. Ideally, like, the curtain would have, like, his logo, like, up front in the center and stuff like that. So we'll see. I get that. I get that. I don't know functions and stuff that change the text in text boxes. Well, I guess then, yeah, that's your sort of starting point, is figuring out those first steps. Of, like, you know, thing that you don't know how to do, like breaking it down into smaller problems, and then, yeah, figuring those things out one by one. Finding the right tutorials. If you're doing this in Unity, then I guess just that starts with just how do you make text, and then how do you change text, and then, yeah, going from there. That should be easy to do about the logo thing. So in theory, I mean, that part of that comes to, there's two stages of that. One is me having to just conceptually come up with the logo and, like, actually, like, decide, like, what exactly I want it to look like and whatever. And then there's, like, the graphical Photoshop-iness of actually designing it, which then that also, there's the extra layer of, like, I don't have that character designed yet, so I would need to, in theory, design that character, figure out more concretely what he's going to look like. I have rough ideas. I have... Actually, he's a character that I have a lot more concrete ideas of what I want it to look like. The player character, I still am very... can go a lot of different ways. But Peter Avion, I have more of an idea of what he'll look like and whatnot, how he'll act and whatever. Although his first name might change, but we'll see. I like him being Mr. Avion because Avion's a plane term, and the hub world being this, like, giant thing of airships and whatnot, I think fits enough. Yeah, we'll see. I have someone else doing character design. Very cool, very neat. I'm still... This game has not made enough progress for me to, like I conceptually in my head thinking about how some characters might look and blah, blah, blah. I'm not at this, actually, like, at the stage yet ready to actually make characters and, like, actually be doing all that blendering. Still got a lot more programming to go because I want to be focusing more on the gameplay and getting everything all functional. I don't know if the first person I'll actually try to make will be this character or not, because if I start with a different character, then I can, like, you know, let that be the guinea pig testing ground of, like, figuring out more concretely, like the art style and, like, whatever. Because I want to make different characters that, like, fit together or whatever. If I do then the player character later, then in theory my skill will have grown. I'll have more figured out what I'm doing, and then can apply those better skills to making the player character look better. But we'll see. That's a lot further down the line. Yeah. Anyways, what was I saying? Well, I guess one small thing in terms of character stuff, I remember I said this yesterday, is that, so I have the full, you know, idea of what I want the Handyman with the Unicycle to be, but then before we do that, I'm making a small demo of the game. 3 levels, in this hub world, probably very different looking version of it than how the final thing will look when it has all of the levels, but, yeah, so 3 levels, and then I have different plans for that. The real game will, in theory, have more characters, but for the demo, all I need, what I've planned around, is having 5. So there'll be, in theory, 5 human characters that I'm going to have to make in 3D model for the demo of this game. Maybe additionally some, like, background NPCs. I'm undecided on that yet. If I'm going to be making, like, circus rides and whatnot, like Ferris wheels and, like, big spinny rides, I might need just some, like, low poly, like, people, like, in them. I don't know how far that's gonna go. We'll see. Because I mean, well, it would be, you know, a big task to be like, like, on one hand, it'd be cool to be like, I've designed 200 characters to be in all the different spots of the different rides, but that's like a very huge task, a very huge undertaking. So, like, you know, for me, one person, like, yeah, that'd be a lot. So I don't know how far I'll actually go into, like, especially for like this demo. I might, like, I can use the fact that this is a more sci-fi game to maybe, like, I don't know, figure stuff out. Like, maybe, that stuff I'm not super worried about at this stage of development. Again, focusing more on the gameplay and the programming, figuring out more of the design stuff later. Although there's still a lot of design stuff that I have thought about. Just, yeah, still a lot to go. I have lots of plans, but we're still in, relatively speaking, very early stages of development. So, something that, speaking of development, a whole thing that I'm still having to figure out, something I'm still tinkering with the player itself, is the fact that, go back over here, this is my sort of scene where I was testing stuff with the player, especially with, like, slopes and stuff, and just programming the player and how they respond to slopes. Right now, the player is, like, decent, and the player is, yeah, it's shaping up nicely. I like that the unicycle movement is lending itself to the actual movement of stuff. Like, for people who weren't here when we initially programmed this, like over a year ago and whatnot, there's some wizardry going on with how the player actually moves. So when you press WASD to move, that alone technically doesn't move the player. What happens is the controls of WASD only cause the player to lean. It's just leaning input. And then I have other code with the unicycle itself that's like, oh god, we're leaning, quick, move in that direction so that the unicycle doesn't fall over. And then that's how moving happens. And it ends up making for cool, like, unicycle-y movement rather than just normal 3D platformer, just running movement where you just move in a direction. The fighting, like, the code, it's the inner workings of the code that fight between the leaning and the not falling over, yeah, work nicely. With slopes, things get trickier, and there's definitely, literally, it's not perfect, and ideally, I would be making it absolutely, properly perfect before I'm actually making levels, but making it perfect is hard and bug-filled, and we're still figuring out getting all the physics to be good. Yeah. But, like, I do like how the character does, like, respond decently currently to slopes. Like, there's actually the kind of leaning is happening. Having the fact that, like, there's the code that fights between the leaning and the not falling over, getting that to work on very steep slopes is hard. Currently, that is being a tricky spot. I did want, in theory, that if you were moving fast enough, maybe not going up a thing that high, but, like, you can, with a lot of speed, go up an incline. Okay, well, again, it's more stuff to be made consistent. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Also, so currently, from me moving around, you can see kind of, like, how much momentum that I have. It's not a lot. Like, there's some physicsiness with the momentum, but there's, like, a battle with... On one hand, you want the controls to be tight and responsive for if most of the gameplay is moving, like weaving in and around hazards and whatnot, and having to dodge things and, like, time moving forward at the right times, not hit, like, projectiles and all that. If the controls are too slippery, that can be a problem. But on the other hand, the fact that you're in a vehicle that is a big old wheel, momentum physics can be cool and fun, and it can be cool to be going down a hill and picking up a lot of speed and then going off a big old ramp. And there's some degree where I kind of do want to lean into that. especially as a result of... Oh, I can't bring... Can I bring this up quick? Let's see if I can bring this up quick. Oh, no, I'm not prepared. Do I have... Let me grab one thing. 2 seconds. Is it... oh, no, you're still... over here. Controller. I was like, is it... Because I'd moved recently. I was like, is it still buried in a box? No, found it. I would, in theory, like this game to eventually have controller input. That's not a thing yet, but in theory, it eventually will be. But that's not... No. So, a game... At one point during my a bit of hiatus where I wasn't streaming for quite a while... oh, is this gonna... Oh, boy. Why is it doing that? What? On my screen, it's taking up the full screen. I don't know why the resolution... It's like, nah, you don't need to take up the whole resolution. Hold on. Hold on. First and foremost... oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, no. No. I'm bringing this game just to show something in it that I want to take as inspiration. I'm hoping to not have technical difficulties with it. It's 1920. So why is that not 1920? I don't want to mess with, like, the actual OBS stuff. If I do this, I expect this to have issues. I was going to say now it's not even there. Okay. I don't know if this will have performance issues. So this is an awesome game called Psychonauts. I'm just going back to where, so spoilers of the game, by the way. I think I have, this isn't where I want to, do I have better... Yeah, it should be fine to... Yes. Okay, I basically just want to show off something in this game. Do I even remember the controls? So, the game I played only, like, recently, a couple months ago. This is a very old game. A game that I knew stuff about, but, like, very, very little about the game going into it. And it was even, like, there was aspects of the game that were quite different than I thought they would be going into it. So, that's cool. But it's a 3D platformer, and I like 3D platformers, and... yeah, somehow I missed this one. But there's a particular thing. I remember buttons, and is it over? Oh, there's a thing. There's a thing I'm looking for. Or is it this thing? There's a thing that you unlock at some point where you get to, like, you can, like, roll around in a ball, get a lot of speed, and you can jump super high as a result. But this ball has lots of physics and momentum to it, such as when you're going down a hill, you gain... Oh, wait, hold on. There's an enemy. Hold on. Okay, let's not die here. Oh, my God, I do not remember the buttons at all. We're just going to kill... I just need to kill this thing before it kills me. And I know there's better ways to kill it, but I'm just going to use the basic attack because that's... I just do not... Am I even killing it? Yeah, okay. Don't mind me. I did get all the achievements in this game. So I was good enough the game to do that, but this was months ago. Anyways, But what I want to show off is this particular place. Look at just how much speed you can get. It's so much. It's great. Yeah. So the fact that, like, you could do that, it's very, I don't know, fun and satisfying, whatever, makes me want to have more... Try to integrate more momentumness into the Handyman with the Unicycle and have it be able to have, yeah, more momentum. Now, like... It's one thing saying it versus actually programming it, because I gotta, like, dig through all the currently very complex code that is currently moving Unicycle Man, and figure out how to change it to do what exactly I want to do. But again, it's still like it's still a balancing act, because I still don't know if I want a lot of the game to be you moving in and around hazards and stuff. If you're going this fast, and then there's a hazard you gotta dodge, like, I don't know. It's stuff I still gotta, like, I guess stuff I still got to balance, and I'm not quite 100% sure how to balance. But, I mean, it's also hard to conceptually balance when, like, I haven't made an actual proper test level yet. So with the last time I was working on this game, we were starting to make this submarine test level. But, like, I think that if I do change a lot of how the... Like, if I change a lot of how the character itself works and moves to be more momentum-y, then it might be a waste making this first test level, because I might have to basically rebuild it from the ground up to be more basing around the momentum, or even just changing the size of gaps and all that, or whatever. Which, I don't know how that's going to work. But on the other hand, I'm almost tempted just to start making that test level anyways, just so I can, rather than trying to just conceptually be solving all this stuff in my head of what stuff may or may not look like, be able to actually see it in practice, building this test level that'll have actual hazards to be weaving around and all that, to then be able to actually see it in action, then messing with, like, the movement speed of the player, and allow them to be gaining a lot of speed, moving, like, downhill and whatnot. Yeah, it might be easier to see once I'm actually, building such things. I don't know. What I do want, like, a counter thing to something that this game is like, is then going uphill is a lot slower, which then, like, you wouldn't be on, you wouldn't be on the ball thing for necessarily. I want to cheat and have that, like, you can still move uphill. Like, I want the unicycle to be able to move uphill at like, a decent speed. Like, going uphill doesn't really decrease your speed much, if at all, until it's, like, super steep and then it's, like, a wall and you're meant to not go up it because it's a wall. But I want going down... main thing I want is I want going down to actually give you a lot of speed to then be able to, in theory, go off a ramp and, like, launch yourself over a decent distance. That's, like, thing numero uno that I want. So, okay, I'm going to quit out of this now. I literally just showing off that game just to specifically show off that one mechanic. And there's other parts of the game that are cool and stuff, but specifically that, like... And not just... Like, that's just a good example of cool momentum physics. There's others in other games. In some, like, skateboarding games, Tony Hawk's Underground and all that, you gain speed and you can go off ramps and stuff. Now, I'm trying not to turn this into a skateboarding game too much, but there is a degree, like, if I set up this kind of half pipe kind of, or is this called a quarter pipe? I forget. Whatever. Anyways, I want, like I built some of, like, this kind of stuff for the player should be able to, in theory, handle if you go up and over, like, just, the code doesn't break entirely. Now, where this does get more problematic is that, like, the code that's handling the leaning of the player and the staying upright and all that, trying to have to sort of override that with being on slopes and stuff is a tricky thing that's been it's been difficult to balance. I also do want that, yeah, with a cliff such as this that is, like, this high, if I hit a boost pad right in front of it, or if there's, like, a lot of, a big slope in front of it, if I'm going downhill, I go at this with enough speed. I want one, for it to not freak out like that. I want you, like, the player to actually be able to scale this wall, kind of like Sonic in a way. But yeah, I want this to actually be a thing that can happen if you're going fast enough. You'll, like, scale up a wall and then land up there. In theory, to climb up something that tall, you need, like, a lot of speed, but I want that to be a thing that's technically possible. Or even going up and then, like, off the side and having it just not freak out. Yeah, there's currently a bit of a quirk in this system where if you are sideways like this, like at the very lip of an edge there, and then you become not on a lip, because as the player goes from being sideways to then being upright because they're in midair, because of the way the pushing code works, the sort of anti-leaning actual moving code, then you get, like, pushed away from the wall, which is a problem. But yeah, I would also like, if I'm going the full mile with stuff like this, if a level had a loop-to-loop, and you are going fast enough, I would like, in theory, for you to be able to do that. And I'm trying not to get too Sonic-like with it. I don't know how much in the game there would be a loop-to-loop type thing, if at all. But just be able to have lots of, angly, weird terrain and have the unicycle be able to handle it would be cool. Because it could be a combination of, in terms of if your objective is get from thing A to thing B as fast as possible, dodge hazards along the way. Like, hazards can both be, or obstacles as a very broad umbrella term, can both be, here's fire, go around the fire so that you don't get stunned and whatnot. But then there can also be just, like, using good use of ramps and downhills and speed boosts and all that to just go fast, and also don't hit hazards and whatnot. Yeah, it can be good. I don't know. I've just thought of that. Would I have different terrain, like you actually go different speeds on? Like, here's grass and you go at like whatever speed on that. But if you're going on like flat, proper like pavement, you'll go even faster on that versus like sand. Would I do that? I'm not sure. That might be taking it a step too far. I mean, there could be obvious like something that's more of like an obvious, like here's sticky goop or whatever, you can go through that, but then you go slower, and like that's different. And here's some kind of boost pad thing or whatever makes you go fast. But as on like a just basic terrain by terrain basis, maybe not. If I were to make something that makes you go slower or faster while you're on, I think that'd be more special, like obvious thing, saying it out loud. Like another example of that could be like deep snow that you go in and then you're going slower. But I guess it doesn't need to be on a every single type of terrain has a different move speed, probably. Now, but again, if you're moving too fast, does that become a problem with the hazards? Well, that just depends on how I design the hazards. One idea that I did have, I don't know if it would work. It seemed like maybe like, oh, here's a way I can get the best of both worlds, but maybe it's overcomplicating it. If I want to be able to have that, like, sometimes you can move slower and like fine-tune getting around obstacles, which I guess you can do by just moving slower, I suppose. Right now, like I'm moving with WASD, so you're going to move at a consistent speed. In theory, if you're moving with a controller, you can be like only hold the stick down a little bit if you want to move slower. In theory, but like bikes have changing gears. Can you change gears on a unicycle? I actually don't know. I don't know if that's a thing. But if maybe I made it so that there's a button where you can effectively change gears in the unicycle, and you have like the mode where you go really fast and like hills and stuff make you go really fast, a lot faster, but you don't have as much control with stopping or turning. But then you press some button, you sort of change gears, and then you're slower and have more nimble movement to fine-tune go around hazards. Like, that could be a thing that we maybe do, and maybe that does solve the problem you have that best of both worlds. But then there's more complications with the player having to then, I guess, switch back and forth, and I don't know if that's good or bad, or if I should commit to one and just go with it. Or, yeah, I don't know. That's the random idea I had that I don't know if it's something I want to go with, or if it wouldn't be worth doing, or if it'd be overcomplicating things to attempt to make something like that, or if I just should have one system and just clean it up, make it work perfectly. But Mr. Avion has some goat-like balance. So this is not Mr. Avion, or however it is being pronounced. This is Handy Harold Henderson. Is the actual protagonist of the game. Mr. Avion is the employer guy who will fire you if you make too many mistakes. Yeah, there's a couple characters and whatnot. I don't know. Yeah. You are just a worker for the carnival, but then there's still the carnival owner as being a separate person. I theory there'll be a whole cast of characters of people working for the carnival and whatnot. And as you go through the game, as you go through different levels, then like the carnival itself will grow in size, and then more people will exist and do stuff in levels and whatnot. I haven't even, in terms of recapping this stuff, I haven't even talked about this helper mechanic that I want to do. So, as I said, the gameplay is like you're going between rides, fixing them. Not even just that. Like, different levels will have different objectives, and hopefully the story and stuff will be cool to, like, that just different stuff will be happening. As an example, I want a prison break level. I want a thing to happen in the story where one of the characters gets, like, arrested, either for something they did or, like, falsely arrested or, like, whatever it ends up being. Or maybe it's, like, the enemies of the game, the safety corporation, they set someone up to get arrested, like of one of the good guys, and then later on, not immediately, it won't be the next level, like a couple levels down the line, there's like a prison break where, they're hosting a carnival in a prison, but also it's a distraction to then behind the scenes you're doing stuff to then help somebody escape. So I want to do crazy, wacky ideas like that. So I want a prison break thing. I want a heist level where you're breaking into potentially like the main antagonist, the safety corporation. You're breaking into their headquarters to steal something. I don't know what you're stealing yet and what it's gonna do, but I don't want it to be like a MacGuffin kind of thing. I think like I more want a heist for the sake of doing the heist. I don't think the actual thing you'll be stealing will be super integral to the story. But yeah, and then just I have more crazy stuff like that I have ideas for. My man has some devious balance, broken balance, the nail in their smallest toe. Yeah, the balance is so a funny thing that I'm doing with this character is, so before this game, he's never ridden a unicycle before. But he's had previous employment as a repairman, a plumber, and casually a professional skateboarder. like that being like on his resume is just like 1, 2, and hey, wait a minute. So he has like history of being like a professional skateboarder or whatever, which justifies him being able to pick up riding on a unicycle so quickly and having good balance or whatever, despite never having ridden a unicycle before. Also, why is the character having to ride a unicycle? Because gameplay is thing number 1, and it's like, because I want gameplay to be thing A, coming up with whatever story reason to justify that. It's just like, well, just being a part of like what's on the job description is like, you have to be able to ride a unicycle and be expected to ride one like while you're doing your repair work and blah blah blah. I mean, gameplay wise, then like using it to get speed and cross gaps and whatever, then that would be being useful. But yeah, and then maybe like at some point, like the fact that like, oh hey, you're riding back and forth, like, oh look at you, you're repairing all these, like going back and forth like a chicken with your head cut off around the carnival. Maybe like you start to become an attraction of people watching you, like, yeah, you run around the carnival dodging all these hazards that get more and more crazy as the thing goes on. So it become more mandatory to need the unicycle. I don't know. I was also gonna maybe have a thing to justify some stuff of other characters. Like, why do I have to go through all this deadly hazards and stuff and you guys don't? Because of whatever sci-fi stuff, I can maybe say that like teleporting is a thing and people can like teleport like back and forth, but you can't teleport metal or something. So you on the unicycle and like your wrench and your tools or whatever, you have to go the long way around always. But then whatever other characters get that freebie of like, yeah, we'll see you on the other side, bye. And I don't know, we'll see. That's the stuff like that is entirely just like, here's a gameplay thing and then making up whatever story I want to just justify gameplay. That mostly just stuff thrown in there as jokes or whatever, random, you know, not stuff that's like the focus of anything. I didn't start back up the music. Oh, this is the Void level, isn't it? Yeah, the Binding of Isaac. What was I saying? There's more. Oh, there's another mechanic that I have barely talked about because it's something I thought of and I think would be super cool, but haven't done any programming at all of actually implementing it. To have variety in gameplay, I basically want some levels where there'll be you have an extra button that does an additional thing. That I have ways of justifying both with story and like way of explaining to the player in a way that I think will be fine to like make sense or whatever. And basically any other buttons on the controller are fair game for this, but I imagine for the most part, like A is going to be your main interact button, like pressing levers and like repairing stuff and whatnot. So I don't think those will be used in a lot of levels. A lot of levels will have your normal gameplay. But as I think better explained with an example. You go into a level and there's a bunch of electric hazards like everywhere, covering like most of the level. But it's like you kind of have some of them are on and some of them are off. And rather than it being like on a timer where it's like these are buzzing and then these are buzzing, because of story reasons, like you're talking to like a character, like an electrician person, like whatever, who's like, oh, I'm trying to repair this stuff. I can't turn off all these electric things, but what I can do for you is I can either have these ones on or these ones off. So if you press this button, you tell me on like whatever, like walkie-talkie or whatever, you shut out, then I'll flip the switch from over where I am and that'll switch like the hazards, like these ones being on to these ones being on. So then as you're going through the level, like maybe be on some kind of like cool off timer or whatever, like as you're going through, like you're going up around some hazards, you press Y and then the hazards like change. But I'm justifying with story reason of like you're telling somebody somewhere else in the level to do something that's then causing stuff to happen. And basically that's maybe not the greatest example, probably could have picked a better one, but I want more stuff like that where, hey, in a level, you press this button, another character will do something that's going to affect the level in some way, like maybe, well, okay, most basic way is flip-flopping the state of some stuff in the level, but there's other ways I want to potentially do that, like, I don't want to do, like, you having a gun, necessarily. I don't really want to do, like, I don't know, shooter mechanics. But hypothetically, if you had, like, oh, you got to go through this level and shoot all these targets and whatnot. It could be that you, the player, get a gun. But I want to justify most of it by having other characters do stuff. So you just have another character that's, like, riding on your shoulders that's holding it for a carnival themed. It could be, like, a water gun that you're shooting, like, targets of, like, dunk tanks or whatever. You have like a random person like riding on your shoulder that then you pressing buttons is then guiding them to do stuff, but it's still moving along with you. things like that. I had more ideas. I have more stuff like written down for potential like ways to use these kind of mechanics. And it doesn't just have to be a toggle to press one button to do a thing. We have lots of buttons on the controller. It can be a like toggle thing between thing A, B, or C, and that's the way that a character's helping out with you with something. Maybe in a very late game level, it's like, this character will help you do this if you press this button, this character will help you do this if you press this button, and this character will help you do this if you press this button. And, you know, doing more just, yeah, things like that. Maybe in a boss fight, like, oh, hey, if I press this button, that character will start, like, waving their hands around, being a distraction for the boss, so that then you can, like, get the boss from behind and stuff like that. Basically, I just think that can add more variety to the gameplay. It could be cool ways to both, for gameplay stuff and for story reasons, if I'm having the carnival having these other characters, these other people that work for the carnival, just doing more with those characters that I come up with, like allowing them to do more both in the gameplay and the story by, yeah, not just having you press a button and then you, the player, flip a switch that then changes hazards in the level, by specifically story-wise saying that it, like, you're talking to someone on a walkie-talkie and you're telling them to do stuff. Yeah, it allows just other characters to do more in the story, even in like a gameplay reason and all that. And basically, that's a thing that I wanted to play around with, that different levels would have that. And ideally, in my 3-level demo, level 1 and 2 won't have that. Level 3 will have an example of that mechanic somehow. I haven't decided like how specifically I want that to be. I haven't planned that far into that specific, this demo level, like what version of what I've just said is going to be a thing, but we'll see. But man, basically, hey man, I don't know how to do the job, please do it for me. Yeah, or more like multitasking. Hey, I'm busy doing this thing, so you over there do other thing. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know how often I will use that in the game. It wouldn't be every level, but like enough that it's justified for me to code the mechanic in the first place, and then also having variety in the stuff that it's just more level variety, and it's, yeah, and I think it can do more for the story and the characters and just being cool and blah blah blah. I don't know how much, like, anytime that I do that, I don't know if it'll always be a one-time thing that you'll use that button for that specific mechanic, or if I'll ever, you know, bring some of them back or with a twist. I don't necessarily want to repeat stuff too often, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We will see. We will see. Anyways, so yeah, that's a whole other thing. We haven't even started programming that, but I think that'll kind of wait until I know that this first level, the first level that we want to make, this submarine level that is, so we have 3 levels planned, kind of this demo that I want to make for this game. Because reasons, we're starting with the second one, because I think the second one will be the technically easiest to make, because with the first one, that's going to also involve making the introductory cutscene stuff, the tutorial things of teaching the player playing the demo to play the game, which that's going to have to also happen a lot more fast-paced. In the real game, I don't need to teach every single mechanic all at once. I can introduce stuff more gradually over the course of a couple levels. For a demo, there's not that much time, so that kind of stuff will need to be more condensed. I don't know why, but Harold sounds like the guy to have a spare shotgun. Maybe. He doesn't want you to know that. No, I don't know. Yeah. I still have to design even like the actual enemies. I don't remember the acronym. It's an acronym I have written down. I have to find out what it is again, but it's the Safety Corporation Entertainment Division or whatever. That is the people trying to shut down your carnival for being super unsafe, which makes them sound like the good guys at first. And at first they almost are, but then they start like doing more shady, underhanded things, like intentionally trying to sabotage stuff at your carnival to get you shut down. Like, they break your stuff and then sue you for your stuff being all broken and people getting injured and whatnot, so they can get you shut down. And then also they end up being the bosses in theory. And yeah, potentially doing more shady, underhanded antagonist things. But then also, I guess, well, you're the good guys, you're not exactly the most, like, the whole thing with the carnival, you being a repairman, is because the place is super unsafe and rides are breaking all the time, and you basically gotta stop people from getting hurt so that you don't get sued. So it's morally gray on both sides. Yeah. Anywho, though, there was nothing I was gonna say. I forgot what it was. So yeah, 3 levels that we're making for this demo. We're starting with the second one, and then I guess we'll be making the first, and then we'll be making the third. I have rough ideas for what they're gonna be and where they're gonna be taking place. The first level is gonna be on like a foresty, like cliffside kind of thing. Lots of cliffs, I'm imagining. Actually, that's like the first level is the one that's the least planned for this demo. I know that for the real game, the first level is going to be in like a junkyard with lots of broken stuff and like garbage that's like, oh, buzzsaws and like whatever. I'm just deciding for this demo, like, oh, I could go with the exact same thing, but I'm deciding like for the variety's sake, just doing more stuff, that I don't want the demo's first level to be the exact same setting as the real game's first level, just because to try making different stuff. So I'm a little bit less decided, like, okay, if I'm not doing this, then what else am I doing? But I imagine some kind of, traditionally games first levels is green foresty stuff, but I don't want it to be too generic. I still want the environment itself to be cool and interesting, but yeah, the first level is the least planned at the moment, I would say. The second level is a submarine, a gigantic submarine that you're inside of, in a volcano, or at least in a lava-y environment. In a environment where it's lava and not water. Morally questionable protagonist? Yeah. Well, it's like, think SpongeBob working for Mr. Krabs, I guess, kind of. It's more, it's the business guy. It's Mr. Avion who's more the shady one. It's like, we're just the ones getting the paycheck. And we're the ones that are repairing the stuff, stopping people from getting hurt. So, I don't know. Yeah. What was I saying? So that second level is submarine in a volcano. And then third level is going to be a heist. The demo is going to have this heist, although it might be executed very differently than in the real game. But I want a heist, and I want it to be like skyscrapers and like kind of sci-fi. A bunch of skyscrapers that you're like going between, and maybe from being in the skyscrapers, being in like office buildings and stuff. And yet going back and forth between them. And then potentially towards the end having a bit of a getaway thing where there's like flying cars and stuff and going between different flying cars and whatnot. And yeah, basically seeing how that goes. That's also like still a lot more planning needs to be done with that. But yeah, but I did kind of roughly, for the sake of this demo, I wanted first level to be more exterior environments, second level to be more interior environments to test those things, and then third level to be a combination of interior and exterior stuff. To just test those things just because. But then we'll see, from planning to execution, we'll see how a lot of this stuff actually turns out. Who knows? Still a lot I gotta do to even be able to properly continue working on this game. I imagine Harold invading an office on the unicycle. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, is it the offices of the place that people that you're stealing whatever this heist thing is from, or is it just as you're going away, you're just going into a random office, like, oh, what's going on? Yeah, we'll see how all that that turns out. Hopefully, it turns out cool. But so like the next thing the two sides of the next thing that I'm working on with this game is taking this amalgamation of planning that is just like this is stuff planning the very bare bones essence of this submarine level. You'll notice that there's lots of lines going between a lot of different things, and there's between each of these two lines, or between any 2 points, so every line has an empty game object that I've set up stuff so that it has names of, basically I'm planning like, here's points of interest in the level that mean different things. And then between any 2 points of interest, here's a hazard or an obstacle of some kind. Because that's one thing I think will help how I want the gameplay of this to feel, is between any 2 points of interest, as in like things that are going to break and whatnot in the submarine, there is an obstacle of some kind. Whether some are more easier or harder to get around. But then also, I think the colors mean different things. Right. Another thing that'll be cool with the repairing aspect is I want there to be optional things that you can repair to make shortcuts in the level. So for example, here, there was gonna be this like, I don't know, ice, like in this submarine, a room that's like frozen solid that you can't like get into. But if you while repairing other stuff, if you have the extra seconds, you chip away at like repairing this thing, but you repair it a little bit and then have to go away to continue the level so you don't fail it, and you come back and you repair it a little bit more. Once it's fully repaired, then it's like, now you have an easy shortcut between one thing and another. And there's a few of those around the level. Like, for example, this cannon is something that'll launch you from this side of the level. It's going to launch you all the way over here. So ideally, depending on how useful the shortcut is, will affect how long it takes to repair. But then this is also going to require a lot of getting the timing right on, like, how fast the health bars of the rides are going down. Like, how much time you have to do all the things you got to do in the level. Making sure that that's all timed right so it's not super, like, unfair and whatever. And I have to also remember that if, like, I, in theory, because I have made this game, like, I will be, hopefully, good at it. So I need to, like, make sure that someone else who's never played this before, who's just learning the mechanics, that it's not brutally the most difficult thing ever. In the real game, that can happen. I do want, like, I want the levels to have a normal mode and a hard mode. I don't know if the demo will have the hard modes. In theory, maybe they will. We'll see. I'll get back to that. If I do make hard modes of levels, I'm going to wait until, like, the real level's done first. Although, another thing that I've said a couple times, one thing that I want to do with these hard modes is I want them to kind of feel like different levels. I don't want it just to be like, oh, here's a hard mode, it's the same level, but, like, same obstacles, that they go slightly faster or whatever. I want to, same basic foundation, but the level to feel different. Ideally with it being, like, swapping some hazards out for different hazards that you have to think about differently to get around and whatnot. And the levels will have names, like crash levels and whatnot. Some of them hopefully be puns and whatnot. And even the hard modes will have different names. Yeah. Will I mirror them? I could mirror them. That's usually an extra thing that sometimes you do to just have more variety. We'll see. But, like, I'm not going to... Like, I have conceptually some stuff that I want to do with these hard modes. I'm going to kind of wait till a real level is done before I even consider the hard mode. Even with this demo, I will probably wait until all 3 levels are done, and then I would retroactively look at then making the hard modes of all 3 of them. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so, what was I saying, though? So, the next thing I would, in theory, be doing, conceptually, would be, I have all this planning stuff. Assuming this planning is good, I don't look at a lot of this planning and go like, oh, no, this isn't going to work, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, I know that there is one kind of example of that, is that the way that I initially planned this level was a little bit wrong, and there's too many lines than there actually kind of should be, and there's then, therefore, too many, of, like, individual hazard things that I might have to make, that I might have to sort of cut some of these down and sort of cut down on the number of lines and points of interest. I think it's very likely that levels 1 and 3 will not have as many of these points of interest and thus lines between them, just with the nature of stuff with them. But I'm gonna stick with this for now, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I could be wrong and whatever. Handycycle on a Uniman. Oh no. Yeah. That's his arch enemy. I don't know. I did want to potentially, like, have a level where you have, like, either another employee, or it's like a robot or something like that. Basically another thing on a unicycle. Or it doesn't have to be on a unicycle, it could be a different thing. But something else, like another Handyman-esque thing where you are both having to run around in a level and repair stuff, and you have to basically repair more things than them. And have, like, that be a level would be cool. But then also, like, so you want to maybe be slowing them down, them slowing you down, like, whatever. But then the extra thing on top of it I think will be cool is that, like, so you have the rides, their health bars are going down. One of you has to repair the thing before it goes down. If any rides break, you both get penalized, like, you both get strikes and potentially fail. So you want to both stop them from getting to the thing first, but make sure that you also get to the thing first so that you actually repair it, so that somebody repairs it in time before it runs out. So ideally, I can maybe make some scenarios where as you're trying to scramble back and forth, it's sometimes beneficial to, okay, I'm going to let you repair that thing just so we both don't die kind of idea would be cool. This almost like fighting, but then a tiny little bit of collaboration. If I can make that scenario work, would be cool. Rather than it just being, Metal Sonic kind of gimmick? Exactly, kind of. Well, in Sonic CD, it's just a race. Like, you're just racing Metal Sonic to the end, and then you win and you die. So it's, like, similar, but, like, yeah, basically, yeah, you're, like, evil copy kind of idea. Well, I don't even know about evil. Like I don't know what the character is going to actually be. It's either because it's sci-fi. It could be a robot that is going to potentially do better than you because robots are better than people, more efficient at doing stuff or whatever. Or it's an actual person, and it's either like the carnival hired another handyman and they can only keep one of you, so it's like a rival thing of like, you gotta do better than them, otherwise you're just gonna get fired, and then they'll kind of take your spot. Or somehow it has to do with the antagonists sending somebody. Oh, what if it's like an undercover thing where it's a poorly bad undercover thing where it's like, it's obviously like one of the villains, but with like a mustache, like a very bad disguise. You, the protagonist, can tell it's just one of the evil people, and they're pretending to be a good guy. But like maybe other character, like the Mr. Avion doesn't realize it. It's like, oh, we've hired another handyman. You gotta like be better than him now, or otherwise one of you's gonna get fired. So maybe I do it both ways. I don't know. We'll see. Literally just came up with that off the top of my head. I like. Hard to decipher what ideas are too stupid to actually do. I don't know. But even something like that is still going to be very far off when we would actually conceivably do such ideas. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, first thing we got to do is there's what we got to do next falls into two camps. It's for making new stuff. It's making this level. But in terms of fixing stuff that's already made, I did rambling earlier about how we might be just changing a lot about how the underlying programming of the actual player works, just to make them function better. And then maybe integrating more momentum-based movement. And I might be shooting myself in the foot if I don't do that sooner. But that's gonna be really hard, daunting task to do that. I gotta like, look at the player code. That is a whole big thing. This whole monstrosity. It's I mean, there's stuff that's like sectioned decently. There's like calc, flatten, lean, don't fall over, turn, spin wheels, counter, spin pedals, bobble, fall, move with the platform. Yeah. This all is a big mess, and I'm gonna have to spend some time understanding it. Me just spending time looking at my code, remembering what it does, I don't know if I want to do that off stream, so there's less of me just staring at code for hours on end. But at the same time, I mean, you all looking at this code probably have as much idea of what it does as I do. So I was going back through this together. I don't know if that's content. Especially if I'm going to be potentially working on this game for quite a long time. We'll see. I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, so there's the making the player physically move better, and kind of ironing out all the bugs with how they move, which kind of like conceptually, I know that if I do this, I go to move up this wall, it don't do right, it doesn't look good, stuff like that happens. I can conceptually say that, yeah, that's not how that should be, and it should be better by just not doing that. But translating that into, okay, what code am I going to change specifically to get that outcome? I got to figure that out. And I don't know if, like, I've dug myself a hole with how I've done some of the moving where it's, as I said, like, there's leaning code, and then there's, like, counter-leaning code, and, like, move in the direction that you're leaning, and it's all physics-based. I don't know if that's a problem, and if it'll end up working better if I just do a more traditional moving player that then a lot of the turning is more fancy. I just remembered a thing that the turning is fancy, because, if I do this, right, I completely forgot that, if I remember correctly, you see how there's a capsule with the player? Actually, do the thing. Turning. Yeah. There's a capsule and then like a ball collider on the wheel with the wheel. So the player doesn't actually turn. Mr. Hold on. Mr. Avion that Handyman's mustache is me. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like, potential, like, put that in the idea book, and, like, I don't know, we'll see if we do that or not. It's moderately funny if the execution is there. I mean, the game itself, like, isn't gonna be super... It's gonna be somewhat lighthearted and jokey, and, like, I mean, it'd be cool if it has some serious moments, like when, you know, I want a character to get arrested and then a couple levels later you're having to then go and break them out. Ideally, like, when they get arrested, there's some kind of, some level of actually caring rather than it all just being jokes and whatever. But, like, it's not going to be a game that's going to take itself super seriously, I imagine. And it is a game where I'm caring way more about the gameplay, kind of hoping to, like, trying to plan it gameplay first, and then coming up with story to justify the gameplay. So there might be, like, some amounts of nonsensical story that's because I wanted the gameplay to be that thing. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all turns out. But what I was saying is, so right now the player isn't turning because this is a thing with just how the player works is, this capsule and the sphere collider, this is all, like, it doesn't turn. This is how the player moves, by just moving like this. The turning is all visual. So the physics is the moving around like that. The leaning and the, oh god. Did I move the wrong thing? Okay, so I don't know why that happened, but me changing code while stuff is running, I can expect to do weird results. But yeah, the turning based on which way we're going, and then also if you're going backwards, you roll backwards. Although this is still a little buggy because I swear it like that. It seems to for some reason prioritize, like, it's not supposed to, but it seems like there's a lot of cases where you're moving backwards and then you just don't stop moving backwards, even though it looks like you should have turned around to be forwards. But more things to just, yeah, continue to sort out and whatnot. But yeah, so the turning is visual, but like the moving is all physics and whatnot. But in theory, I want this physics to be able to handle slopes and be able to handle, like, going sideways like that and having it work and not break. And in theory, being able to go full upside down without completely imploding. But then there's a lot of, like, edge cases that are weird. Like, what happens if you are upside down from, like, going on a really fast loop-to-loop, and then you, like, exit off the side? A lot of where that becomes tricky is just that transition from being on a surface to then being in midair and handling that. Because then what happens if you're upside down, you leave, and then now you're in midair, and then go straight, like, you hit ground like proper on level ground like a few seconds after, and we flip around, and will it be super weird? Like that stuff. Ideally, that's a whole separate thing that I haven't even talked about. Another thing that might change to some degree is how I handle. Oh, I wanna where's my kill floor? Or let me just put the player just. Just when you're falling, like when I'm in free fall, like, do I want to handle this differently? I would kind of like, it'd be cool if when you're falling, you do kind of switch into more of a free fall mode where, like, even animation wise, like the unicycle doesn't have to be touching the ground. Oh wait, I don't think I left the ground properly. There's code for when you leave the ground that's supposed to do stuff. I think that it didn't run properly because of the way that I kind of force left the ground. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. What the heck? Oh, I didn't move the right thing. Technically, yeah, I moved the wrong object. Let's try that again. If I do this, do I see the... Oh, the wheels do still turn. Maybe I didn't stop the wheels turning in air. I mean, if you're talking about realism, like, technically, it's not realistic to be able to move in midair. Once you're in midair, you should be going in that direction. But it's, you know, very common in games you allow movement in midair because it just feels better, and we're going to be doing that. We allow the player to move in midair because it's just better. Still keeping that momentum and all that, and maybe the move speed in midair. I think currently it's set to be a bit like lower or something. I forget. Harold descends to become a green plane live in 4K HD. Yeah. But if this, when you're in midair, if you switch to more of like a free fall kind of thing, just the act of changing how the physics work when you're in midair could actually solve some of the problems with how the physics reacts to being in midair. And then if I do that, then it'll be easier to handle stuff when you're pure on the ground. Although I gotta be careful with it. I can't, like, have you switch to, like, you know, free falling, whatever, anytime you leave the ground, because if you go from this bump to here, like, that shouldn't happen probably. So I would need to detect some amount of, like, you've been falling for however many seconds or, like, whatever. Yeah, the thing with making a character for a game is really, really hard. There's so many nuances to it. It's all got to be perfect for the game to be, you know, not a buggy mess. This is like, it's all foundational stuff, but like above all, it's got to be fun. Sometimes it can be, you know, funny, like haha, the physics was weird, I got launched over, cool, ha, that's funny. Like that can in theory happen and not be the worst thing in the world. But like stuff like this is just the physics not being good and like should be better. But then, as I said as well, I want to see if I can have more going down slopes, giving you a lot more momentum and whatnot. Yeah, having momentum be a thing and then doing more with that would be cool. Anyways, it is 12:12. I am unfortunately out of time, I think. So we didn't actually do... I didn't expect that we'd be doing a lot of actually working on this game today. More, I just wanted to like look back at the project and talk about it, and that we might start to do more stuff with this. We'll see. But I got to do a lot more of like... It's going to be a huge hurdle to cross, this improving the player and trying to make them better and not come out of it having the player be worse than they were before. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be tricky. And I am, like, as I said, like, the player is functional at the moment. So do I just go ahead and the player as they are start to make this test level, get all these hazards together so that I just have a better environment to be testing player stuff in? Or is that shooting myself in the foot because then once I change stuff with the player that I kind of want to do anyway, then is that going to be, like, then will I have to basically rebuild a lot of this level or, like, most of it? You know, yeah, I don't know. One mechanic that I want here, I want this to be, like, a magnet wall. I want, like, so that's the thing I'm going to have to code, and then that's a whole other thing that's going to make the player complicated. I want you, like, this wall is all magnetized, and therefore you're actually, like, going up it, as long as you're stuck to the wall, which then I got to make sure that, like, if you're going up here, if there's a very slight bump, you shouldn't leave the wall and fall off it. Like, probably you're on the magnet wall, like, it should take a lot to, like, have you fall off the wall. Yeah, that's additional stuff that I'll have to code and whatnot. But, yeah, it's all, like, we'll figure it out, and, yeah. I gotta guess, you're more thinking on my own time with sort of, yeah, the order that I want to do things. And again, it's like, well, it'd be great to just snap my fingers and, cool, we got the better player and whatnot. Conceptually, I'm like, okay, I have some ideas for how I make the player work better. But actually coding it, like, actually messing with all this and getting the exact proper changes and getting them to all work is going to be a doozy. So, yeah. But we'll get through it and hopefully, yeah, come out the other side with the player being awesome. Because that's the main thing. I want the game to be fun. I want it to be cool. So I continue to change how the player works to hopefully come out with a result that is just more fun, more enjoyable moving around. Then, yeah, that's what I'm aiming to do. Harold's such a pro skater. He can ride giant slopes while standing front to front with it. Oh, yeah, he was like just forward and like going up the wall. Yeah, see, like, ideally that shouldn't happen. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to, like, reassess how, like, the leaning code works. But I don't know. I like the idea of leaning, haha, get it? The unicycle movement. I'm not going as far to being like, oh, you have to press buttons to, like, turn the pedals or whatever. I still, like, you're just holding W and moving in a direction. But the fact that it happens as a result of leaning is, I don't know, I like the nuances that come with that. I just got to make the rest of the physics... Like, if I was being more realistic and you were just going across just flat ground, like, then that would be fine. But there is the extra thing of that I want it to work with going up walls and with getting a lot of speeds and be able to go up walls and off ramps and all that. It's, you know, it's making it trickier, but it'd be cooler if we can get it to be working with all of that stuff, not being physicsy buggy mess. Anyways, though, so it is 12:15, so yeah, I do gotta go. Between this stream and the next one, I'm hoping to, like, for now, like, as I said, I might maybe look into some stuff with this in my free time. I do still have the video that I'm working on, this guy over here, so any free time I have that should be, I would like to be going into this until this thing is done. And then we go in, well, actually, so... As terms of mini projects while we're on the road to being full-time in this project, there's one, finishing this video, and then I have 9 more videos planned, but they don't need to happen right away. For now on, at least just to get this one done, this first one. Thing 2 is the stuff below my stream, that like animation. I want to revamp it in a bunch of ways, make it cooler in ways that I've already rambled about. Doing some stuff with like, okay, instead of it being a looping video, it being a like live feed of a Unity scene that's running on my old computer, that then is somehow fed into this computer, and it being just a live thing of a Unity scene so I can do more with it, have more randomness. It doesn't have to be on a loop. And then I don't know if I'll do this right away, but the eventual idea would be cool to have chat being able to type stuff that affects it. I don't need to do that right away. But just the flip of it being a live feed. I want to do that. That'll be the next immediate thing, because it'll be cool. And then when we do that, then we'll change up what the thing actually looks like. You know, we'll see. And then after that, then maybe then we'll be more. I might still have some streams doing this, but in terms of hardcore starting to work on this 24/7, then they'll start to happen soon after, perhaps. I do still want to, like, I had some other little side projects I want to do with, so like right now, like the next stages of what we're doing with this is a lot of just the programming stuff. I mean, visuals as far as like the physics of how the character moves and whatnot. But it's gonna be a long time before we start actually making people. Before I start actually making like proper human models, I want to do a separate side project of making little rendered in Unity animated shorts to practice making people and animating them and stuff like that. And while also being practice on making cutscenes for this game. So it'll also kind of, we'll be doing that to kind of get back, get on the road of then doing that kind of stuff in this game. So yeah, but then also making cool additional content and more finished things from doing that. I still want to do more. It's only more a sketchless drawing of the blue cube with a gun. Oh, that's a whole other thing. Is I want to polish that game more, because then that's also just practice for me. That like, you know, I don't tend to finish a lot of games, so getting to that stage of like all the mechanics are there. Let's do more to make it visually look good. I don't do that a whole lot. So using that game to just practice giving a game a lot more polish and making it like the visuals, taking it that extra step. That's a whole other thing I want to do at some point, but I don't know. That's lower on my priority list at the moment. There's other cooler things that I want to do more for now. But yeah, I had a cool name idea for this alternate universe where my man has a gun. The blue cube guy. Yeah. Oh yeah, the name for that game was No Time to Think, because it's like, that's more what the gameplay is, that you're constantly moving like Snake and you gotta keep weaving around stuff. You don't have time to plan, just go. It's an alright name, it's not an amazing name or whatever. I do quite like the name, The Handyman with a Unicycle. I'm very attached to that name, because it's like, I don't know, it's great. It like describes stuff with what the game is. Unicycle is not a word you see in a game title very often. So it's like with each word of the title, it makes you go like, huh? Excuse me? And I don't know, I like it. And like some games have very short titles where it's just like one word or 2 words, and like I had like as I was coming up with this name, I went through a potential list of potential things. But then I don't know, having a title be a few more words, I don't know. It feels more, it feels unique. It feels like the other game, No Time to Think, that doesn't feel that unique of a title. Like I'm sure there's other games with that kind of title, but I don't know. Handyman with a Unicycle feels like it's my thing. So yeah, hopefully it shapes up to the name and it turns out good. Yeah, but in this universe it'd be no time for you. Oh yes, you're gonna get shot. That's funny. That's good pun. Those are the kind of puns that we need with I hope that this game has cool gameplay things, funny things, blah blah blah. Like I have I don't know if that, like with any idea I say, I don't know if I'm actually gonna go with it when I actually like start to make certain things. But I'd like this pirate character that I want to have named Captain Frank McSteve, because the name is stupid, but I don't know, it makes me laugh. There's just like 2 normal names but made to be a pirate name with just the Mick in it. I don't know, it's funny. Like, I don't know, when you have like a pirate character, it's like Blackbeard, like whatever, but just taking, or like, I don't know, Frank McSteve is funny. Oh, hello, new person, scripted syntax. Hello, hi, how do you do? Welcome to the stream. Unfortunately, we are going to be ending things very shortly, but I don't have to end things right this second. I can show you some of things that we're doing. You know, most of this stream has been a lot of rambling, but I can recap some of that rambling. I'm fantastic. How are you? Doing very good. Yeah, making cool things, and although at like the very start, feels like I'm at the very start of like have a lot of plans, have a lot of cool things that are gonna be happening soon or eventually. At the very start of that stuff, still have like a lot of work to go for a lot of these cool things to fully shape up and happen and all that. But yeah, I have a lot of ongoing projects and we're kind of jumping around between. So like I make YouTube videos doing YouTube tutorials teaching Unity stuff. I haven't made one in a really long time, so my next immediate thing that I'm doing is just work on the next one. I'm doing it in this somewhat unique style presentation I can show where it's, so the video is actually happening in a Unity scene. Are you actually playing? Oh.
Hey there.
It's still in progress, but
I made a game in 9 days, not for any sort of
so it's still all in progress. There's still stuff I'm still working on with it, but this is like the foundational elements of stuff that I'm doing. Whoa, new person, welcome. Yeah, hello. So this is the immediate next thing that I'm working on that you may see over the next couple of streams or like whatever. Once this is done, then I have more stuff I want to do in this kind of style. It looks cool, man. Thank you. There's more that I'm going to be doing, like, so you saw like the monitors actually like swing on screen, like.
There are a lot of...
Yeah, that's cool. They don't have to be perfectly against the screen. I have stuff where they can be slightly like off center. The monitors themselves might be like subtly moving up and down. There's making the background more interesting. The video itself is gonna have background music. It's missing a lot of the actual visuals of the clips itself. Blah blah blah. More stuff with it. Beyond this, the thing that is part of the title of thing that I'm gonna be doing eventually. This is a game that I started working on a long time ago as part of a school project, and just got super busy with a lot of other life things. Stopped streaming for a while, like I have a full-time job now, and like that was busy. I moved recently, like just stuff like that has been making me very busy. But like now I'm back and should be streaming somewhat consistently. I'll give a short explanation of this entire thing. Silly people saying silly things while silly man does silly games. Yeah, now a lot of this is just me. It's like 90% me rambling, 10% actually working on stuff. But no, so this is the Handyman with the Unicycle. Ignore 90% of what you're seeing here. You're a guy on a, actually, this is not, this is planning for the actual next level that we're making, but I can quickly go over to here and just show just a little bit more of like other things. So basically you're a guy on a unicycle at like a wandering or like a traveling carnival that opens up in a new location every day, and your job is rides are breaking all over the place and you got to go up to them and fix them before they like fully break, and then you get strikes if stuff breaks. 3 strikes, you're out. Different levels are gonna have slightly different objectives. Like there'll be some levels where it is just a get from point A to point B kind of a thing, but the main common thing you'll be doing in the game is running around in a big environment, going like here to there, here, trying to stop like things from fully breaking like, before their health bar completely runs out. As you're going from thing to thing, having lots of hazards that stun you and whatnot, different mechanics that we've made and are still continuing to make. Like we have cannons that you can get shot out of. Ignore that cube. That's just a thing that can also get shot out of the cannon. We have hazards like electrical things that go back and forth. We have cannons. We have like more stuff in my brain that hasn't been actually made yet that we're still going to be eventually making a lot more than just this. We have like when pause screen, we have this thing, curtain transition. That's a cool thing. I have a debug button that if I press plus it all. Oh, right. I forgot. Hold on. Messing with my own debug buttons. What button was that again? That was. Oh yeah, I forgot I set up a thing that you can like an in-game drone camera that you can pause the game and look around, but only like I think a certain distance from the player. No, never mind. No, you can just go infinitely. There you go. Yeah, this is something still in progress. I completely forgot that I made that being a thing. But I have this thing like when you beat a level, you're on a platform and then woo, you get launched away. Also, so parkour with objectives when you finish level. I don't know if I'd call it parkour, but like I'd almost say it's like a 3D platformer where you can't jump. And you purposely can't jump. I mean, it's a game. Just because you're on a unicycle, I could have the character jump if I really wanted. But I wanted to purposely have you not jump. I wanted to see what interesting gameplay stuff I can do with the fact that you can't jump. Like having to go down a hill, gain speed, go off a ramp to get across a gap. Having like that you're going fast, like weaving in between stuff. There's like tight ropes. I missed that. There was one of those in that other test level. I want this to have an actual like UI of like a bar that's showing like your balance and all that. But we also have this hub world where so you can see the levels like down there. I can interact with a thing. This is just a temporary screenshot. Actual ones will in theory look a lot better, but just being a screenshot of the level. This ship that I'm on literally just flies over to another level, and like now it's down there. You get in the cannon and it launches you away. Still like a lot of polish that needs to be done. Like I want that actual transition when you're flying to be levels to be like perfectly smooth. I want you to like fly through a bunch of clouds and then you're just in the next level. So like that's the whole thing. But yeah, part of a cool thing that I'm doing, like a cool minor thing that I'm doing with this game is the fact that it basically has no loading screens. Like I was going from one level to another while I was still able to be running around in this hub world here. The hub world itself, like, yeah, has these like, I don't know what I'm actually calling these. These screens, whatever that you go up to that like have, you know, a screenshot of a level or whatever. You interact with them and you go to the levels. You go in a level, you do what the objectives, you beat the level. You go through a couple levels, there's boss fights, then if these are all the levels of a world, then you unlock like the next chunk of hub level where then you have more levels and stuff to interact with. We have, yeah. And we have a lot more than just what's here. This is still in relatively very early stages. This is amazing. Thank you. Oh, one thing I didn't even show off, that thing that took like, oh wait, hold on, did I pause you? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Thing that put a lot of more time into than was maybe worth it, but it's very cool. The levels will have normal modes and then like a hard mode, and the transition when you go back and forth between them, it does this, and it's cool. The stuff all flips around. It's awesome. And ideally the hard modes will kind of feel like different levels. It won't just be, it's the same level, but the hazards move faster. In theory, it'll actually be like, swap out some hazards for different hazards, so you have to actually think about the level differently. Maybe even changing the objective, because different levels will have slightly different objectives. As in the main one is the going back and forth and repairing rides, but then there'll be a traditional, like, get to the end of the level. That's just like an example of get to the end of the level. This is like, as soon as the level starts, there's like 5 things that are breaking, and you just gotta get to all of them and fix them before they all like run out. There's a get collectibles objective. This is the same thing, but this is gonna be more for tutorial levels. Like, this is stuff you have to fix, but it never actually goes down, so you can't like fail these. This would be for like the first level and that kind of thing. And so these are meant to be like carnival rides, like, oh, it's a Ferris wheel, oh, it's a mini like roller coaster and stuff like that. That ideally there'll be little like NPCs actually riding. We'll see how that goes in the graphical department. The actual person on here is temporary, just to temporarily have a human on here. But then, so with repairing rides, we want like also just different, same mechanics used in different ways. So as an example, one of the levels of our demo is going to be, you're on a gigantic submarine. Actually, so it's this level. You're on a big submarine, and yeah, there's some rides that you're going and fixing and whatnot. But then also, oh no, there's leaks. Like the submarine is breaking and there's leaks, and you got to go and repair the leaks before, I guess, the submarine explodes or whatever. So it's still the idea of repairing stuff, but just some different ways of applying some of the same mechanics and whatnot. This level is also going to be, it's a submarine, but in like a lava lake, like in a volcano. So it's going to be leaks of lava. So just additional thing to make it cool. In terms of other like stuff with the theme of the game, it's going to be slightly sci-fi. So, because I just like sci-fi stuff. Not like, I don't think it's going to be like super sci-fi, just like little sci-fi, I guess. I don't know. Like floating, like flying cars, like I don't know, some futuristic-y stuff just to justify gameplay things, a lot of the different hazards that there'll be and whatnot. But ideally, there'll even be boss fights and whatnot. The main, so you're working for this carnival. There's like, the antagonists are like kind of a government, a division of the government that's like this safety corporation that's trying to get your carnival shut down for how unsafe it is. But like for some legal reasons, like, oh, you actually have to have stuff break and then to be able to get sued or whatever. So then like you have to stop rides before they like break completely. I don't know. That's just going gameplay first, what I want the gameplay to be, and then coming up with whatever story to kind of justify the gameplay. But then like, so it's this government people trying to shut you down for being unsafe or whatever, but then they start to do some like underhanded shady things of like intentionally trying to sabotage your stuff, to then be able to sue you for being like all unsafe and whatnot. And then there'll be some boss fights out of that kind of stuff. Honestly, Harold gonna be paid a lot to do these kind of stuff. I don't know if you'll get paid at all. We'll see. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so Handy Harold Henderson is the character you play as. And there's Mr. Avion, who's the business guy, the owner of the carnival. And a few other different characters that I have ideas for and whatnot. The demo, like just other characters, other people working at the carnival, and then like other antagonists of the different boss fights and yada yada. The demo that I'm planning, that's going to be 3 levels, is going to have 5 characters currently planned to be making. There's Handy Harold, Mr. Avion, Looney Junie, Captain Frank McSteve, and unnamed antagonist. I have conceptual stuff planned with this group of antagonists that is the Safety Corporation. I haven't quite planned like specifically a lot of them, but I'm purposely not doing that too much just yet because I want to ideally if it's like a council of people, each one is going to be a boss fight. I'm kind of waiting to like design the boss and then design the character to fit what the boss mechanics are specifically. So like this demo will have one of them, but I'm waiting until I decide like the gameplay mechanics that I need for that antagonist to then retroactively design what that's gonna look like. But anyways, yeah, so that's yeah. So game that we're making is cool, and like it's been a while since I've worked on this, just I said being busy and whatnot. Game is currently shaping up quite well. Like we've made a lot of progress with it, but there's still a whole lot to make. A lot of this stream we were rambling about how I like kind of our next stages with working on this. This has been my first time touching this game in months and months and months. So like that's not good, but good to be actually like working on it again, kind of. Although I still have some of my other outstanding projects, like this video that I'm working on, that I kind of want to finish that more first. So more of my focus is going into this, but we're talking more about like this and how we'll be eventually working on it. My next stages of what I'm working on specifically are 1, making this test level, this submarine level, like this first, not even test, like this, what's ideally going to be a proper level in the demo that might be in the final game, it might not, or like the same idea but like remade or whatever. Like we'll see. But level in the demo, this. But then also we were talking about how some stuff with the actual player itself, we might be changing some things on how the player itself is coded, and well, partially just that like it's not perfect. There's some bugs. There's always some bugs with yeah, just some physicsy nonsense that we're hoping to clean up. But then also I want to make the player more momentum based. I want there to be more. I want momentum to play more of a role. If I go down this hill, so that shouldn't happen, but also the player should like gain a lot of speed to be able to like go off a ramp and whatnot. Looking forward to enjoying your next stream. This game is fascinating. Oh yeah, it's a lot that's tricky. Face planted, yeah. So here's a fun. Here's the thing with how this character is programmed is that, and I've done this ramble already many times this stream, but I'll do it again. Let me just select the player, blah, blah. So WASD doesn't technically move the player. It does, but like technically, WASD just makes like the input just makes the character lean, and then I have other code that's like, oh god, we're leaning, move that way so that we don't fall over. So it's the player moving is like a fight between the input that's making you lean like you're trying to fall over, and then other code that's like, move that way so that we don't fall over. Yeah, it just so happens to work, and it's great. Although, as I said, there's a lot more that I'm going to be doing with it, and a lot of revisions to make. But low-key want to draw Harold with my headcanons and stuff. Yeah, I don't think the character will look anything like this. Won't have that mustache, I don't think. Maybe Mr. Avion will have a mustache like that, but I don't know. A little bit imagine Mr. Avion, Peter Avion, like whatever. Not exactly like this, but a little bit the vibes of Willy Wonka, not just the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka, a little bit. That, but more circusy, and kind of combined with Mr. Krabs in terms of being very full of himself, and like the logo of the carnival is just his face, and stuff like that. And the whole not caring about safety, and well, caring enough to not get sued, but like there's a lot of unsafe, dangerous stuff in the carnival. And it's like, yeah, it's fine. But in terms of the actual character, Mr. Handy Harold himself, I have like some ideas, but he's the character that, like, in terms of what he's going to actually look like, he's the one that I'm going the most back and forth on. Because there's also, because he's the character you play as, there's, like, extra stuff that needs to be considered with, like, designing the character that also works for all the gameplay stuff that needs to happen. Like, the fact that most of you moving this, like, most of you playing the game, like, you're gonna be seeing this character from behind, so they need to, like, look good from the back of their head and stuff like that, and, like, for whatever they need to do in cutscenes and whatever gameplay stuff, and, like, legs tall enough to reach the pedals and stuff like that. Yeah. Loki, mustache license revoked. Yeah. Model an electric unicycle to... model an electric Model an electric unicycle to justify the movement physics. That everything just, like, all glitching out. I mean, so I do, as I said, the gameplay's gonna be kind of sci-fi. The unicycle itself is gonna have some sci-fi elements to it. Like, I'm gonna justify that, like, fall damage, like, you don't take fall damage in this. I'm gonna have some random sci-fi thing, like the Portal 2 long fall boots on why you don't die when you hit the ground. But then also the whole, like, yeah, you in theory with enough speed you basically would just go up walls, and hopefully that's gonna be a thing. We'll one potential obstacle will be, like, I don't even know if you would call it an obstacle, but a thing in a level. Magnet walls that are magnetized, that you'll actually go up the walls and you can stop moving and be magnetized to them. So, like, that's gonna be stuff potentially. Gotcha? Yeah, it's like a whole bunch of potential ideas that we have, but nothing super, like, a lot of potential ideas that we still need to work into, like, the actual, like, concrete what we're gonna do specifically. But yeah, hopefully it'll all turn out cool as it continues to develop. Anyways, though, it is 12:30. We are over half an hour past when I meant to stop streaming. But cool to have a new person, and cool that, yeah, you think that the stuff that I'm doing is cool. As just another small thing I'll quickly end off with. There's this other... this is the Unity project we made, the thing that's currently below the stream, running in another scene. But we also just had some streams just making some other random stuff just for fun. Just doing things I haven't really done in Unity before, that some of this stuff might be repurposed into hazards and obstacles and whatnot in the Handman with Unicycle. So we have lasers that reflect off of the things, and they can, like, they move in real time. So, like, yeah, that's cool and all. This thing, I believe I had this, like, if a laser hits that, it, like, stops immediately rather than infinitely bouncing. This is something that didn't turn out well. I wanted to just make, like, through pure physics, have a thing that, like, dragged itself to see if I could do that, but it didn't quite turn out super well, but might come back to that at some point. But it was just a random thing to messing around with. And we have a catapult that also is having its own set of physics issues, but in its current state, it's like, yeah, it's good enough. Yeah. So yeah, random things that are cool and whatnot. And might be having more random kind of filler streams of just me making random stuff. We'll see. As I said, so for the next little bit, my main focus is finishing this video, but there's some parts of making this that aren't so streamable, so I'm doing that stuff on my own. So while I'm working on that stuff, like, the next thing I need to be doing for this is recording some of these, the visual bits on, like, some of these temporary things. Replacing the temporary stuff with the actual clips that those are supposed to be. The testing platform, yeah, that's kind of what this is. I make stuff here to then put it in Handyman with Unicycle, maybe. Either for the Handyman with the Unicycle or to make another animation that's going on down there of just different stuff. I have another old game that I was working on as a school project. It was called Ultra Tag, and that's just because it was a school project to make a tag game. But that's another thing that turned out cool, and I have more ideas for and might work on at some point as well. And at some point it might be like I'm 50-50ing working on Handyman with the Unicycle and Ultra Tag. Ultra Tag is a, like, lower... It's still, like... I have a lot of cool ideas for, but it's like a bit like smaller scope than the Unicycle game is. But that would be my excuse to make, like, I've never done online multiplayer before, so just for the sake of learning how to do that in the first place, it'd be kind of my playground for doing that. Anyways, though, I keep rambling all day about all kinds of topics, and the amount of times I'll ramble about things per stream is a lot, but I'm happy to keep doing as people are. It's cool to see people interested in the stuff that I'm making, but hopefully, like, again, there's a lot of ideas that I have that a lot aren't, like, executed yet. It's like boulder at the top of a hill, about to snowball down of, like, here's all this cool stuff that I'm hoping to make. soon-ish. It'll be extra cool once that ball starts rolling down the hill and we start actually having more of this stuff actually implemented, having more actual, like, rather than here's a test level, being able to be like, here's an actual completed level, let me show you all that, rather than having to explain all these ideas, just actually showing them off and being like, look how cool this looks. I look forward when we can get to that stage, but to get to that stage, it's a matter of just, yeah, getting in that work and getting it actually all done and finding the time to actually do it, because I do have a full-time job, and I am, like, you know, I have things keeping me busy, so I don't have all the time to be streaming 24/7, but as I find time, I'm, yeah, doing that. Although, like, so for the last couple of weeks, I've been, yeah, busy with things, like, I just moved and I'm in a new location, so I had stuff making me extra busy, not able to stream. A lot of that stuff has kind of calmed down now, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'll hopefully be streaming, somewhat consistently. For the last, since, like, Saturday, I've been streaming every day. I don't know how long I'll be able to keep up that streak, especially, like, this weekend, I'm doing some family stuff, so I might not, but we'll see. Yeah, and then also at some point I might have to, like, opt to not stream to be working on this video, but yeah, we'll see. I'm still, a lot of that's in flux. I don't know specifically what I'm doing, but yeah, figuring that out, and I'll be making cool stuff. So anyways, I'll stop. I can keep rambling for hours and hours and hours. People who've seen, like, a lot of my earlier streams know that I've done some streams that have been longer than 12 hours, so, yeah, but, hold on. Yeah, there's a little bit, like, longer than 12 hours, so people know how long I can just be rambling about nonsense for. So we're gonna end things off for now. I'm just looking for someone to raid, because I see I have, 4 people. Why not, do that? We just gotta find somebody random. Oh, hey, look, it's my stream. Anyone here have any recommendations? I just go to the software and game development category, go to Unity, and then find someone who is similar to the amount of viewers that I have. Let's try this person, who I'm not familiar with. Sure, making Unity stuff, cool. All right, this person's getting the raid, so we just on Blarg, and I need to copy the name. Okay. And then over here, and go /raid. All right, well, actually, before I do this, I end things with an outro. I don't just say bye. I have a whole, like, the spiel that is my outro to my videos. I raise my standing desk and I say, that'll do it for this live stream. If you liked it, look forward to more. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you around. And then now we hit the raid button. Right. I'll probably head off so I can drop some stuff. Yeah, thanks for coming by, everyone. Yeah, cool to have people who see the stuff that I'm doing, and also just having chats about just different stuff going on, and hearing from the stuff that you guys are doing is also cool. Anyway, I said my outro and then didn't end things off. I do gotta go. It is late for me. So, all right, hitting the button. There we go. Yep. Yeah. And 3, 2, actually, yeah. Oh, I didn't pause. Hold on. I gotta pause you, and then it'd be cool if I eventually automate more of this. All right. Here we go. All right. See ya.